Very good.
श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनं सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादां सगण रघुनाथ श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरसुषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपात्तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुजीवतारणम् गोविन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम् Hare Krishna. So we'll continue our discussion from where we left yesterday. We are studying second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is compared to the lotus feet of the Lord. And the meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord purifies the intelligence so that we can further meditate and relish the beauty of other limbs of the Lord. It is also describing the sadhana tattva, the necessary qualities in a sadhaka to be able to assimilate the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that we discussed, and we discussed a brief outline of the second canto, and then we started discussing chapter 1, where Sukadeva Goswami is answering the two questions being asked by Parikshit Maharaj in the previous canto in the last one. That what should be the goal of one's life, what should one do while living, and what one should do while leaving. So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us both the art of living and the art of leaving. And he also asked what should not be chanted, heard, and remembered, and what should be chanted, heard, and remembered. Both ways he asked. So we saw that in this second canto, first chapter, in the very first verse, Sukadeva Goswami is appreciating the question of Parikshit Maharaj. He becomes very, very happy about the question. And he says that what to say of the answer to this question, even to hear this question is purifying. To hear such questions in the matter of Atma Tattva, the matter of realizing the Lord and our own being, own self, such questions are also glorious. And you asked a very good question. Such questions are approved by all the great sages. And now I'll answer that question. So first he is describing about what should not be heard. So he says that those who are not practicing devotional service, they have a lot of matter to read and hear about. And they waste their day in earning money, their night in sleeping and sex life. And they consider that the people around them, they consider them as their own soldiers, Atma Sainis. They're all asat, they're very temporary. So that is not of any use. This is a lipogram. And then he describes that one who want to become free from fear, then one should chant, hear, and remember the glories of the Supreme Lord, whom he describes as Sarvatma, Sarvatma, Ishwar, Bhagavan, Ishwaro Hari. So then the Acharya describes Sarvatma is for Paramatma meditation and Bhagavan is for Raganuga Bhakta, elevated devotees, and for Sadhaka Bhakta, Ishwara. In that form, in those qualities, they should meditate with one pointed attention. And later on, he tells that how this process is so very quick in action, and he tells the example of Khatwang Maharaj. Khatwang Maharaj could follow this for just one muhurta, he became successful. Then he tells about himself that although I was also transcendentally situated in the knowledge of impersonal Brahman, but then I also felt totally attracted to that. And then he says that that's why you should also focus on the same path, meditate on the same, on the holy names of the Lord, holy pastimes of the Lord. And one moment of such life of consciousness is better than thousands of years of living like a tree or a stone. So that he says. And then now he's focusing on how to focus the mind on the Supreme Lord at the time itself. Because he told that the goal of all the processes, Ante Narayan Smriti. How to do that? That is focusing. So I'll just show you the brief outline of the chapter and then go ahead with that. So this is the second canto. So part A, first third chapter, they're talking about superiority of Bhakti Yoga. And then part 2, the next 4 chapters are talking about Sarga and Visarga, about the creation through the conversation of Brahma and Narada. Part 3, chapter number 8 to 10, they are talking about Parikshit Maharaj's question. Parikshit Maharaj asking 21 questions. And Sukadeva Goswami is answering those questions through Brahma Narada's Samvad and also through Vidura Maitra conversation in canto number 3 and 4 further. So going ahead with chapter number 1. So text number 1 to 11, what we discussed yesterday. Sukadeva Goswami is answering Maharaj Parikshit's question by establishing the superiority of Bhakti Yoga. So we congratulate for the question, what should not be chanted, heard, and remembered. That is described in 5 or 6 verses. And then he talks what is to be chanted. And among that, among the Nama Rupa Guna Lila, the Nam Kirtan is considered as a top standard. And then he says that it's the quality of life which matters, not the quantity. He gives the example of Khatwang Maharaj. Now, text number 15 to 39, what we will discuss now. Sukadeva Goswami is speaking on the path of Bhakti Jnana, which contains the Bhakti has to be mixed with anything for attaining success. Karma alone, Jnana alone, Yoga alone cannot give success at all. They can give success to their followers only by the dint of mercy of Bhakti Devi. So Bhakti in its mixed form, its impure form, has to be there in any of the processes. Without that element of devotion to the Lord, none of the process becomes successful. Right? But then that is, they take Bhakti as a means to attain their goal. Like karmis, they do that little bit of Bhakti as a part of Karma Kanda to attain their goal of Bhakti, that means Swarga, living in Swarga, or other higher planets. The Jnanis, they render that Bhakti process with the goal of merging into impersonal Brahma Jyoti, or impersonal Brahma realization. And the yogis, they use that element of Bhakti for attaining siddhis. But in all three, they have to accept the personality of the Supreme Lord in its true form, not impersonal form, and render some service, although they're not attracted to them. Just like, say, for example, we have Prime Minister or Chief Minister. So Prime Minister may come to Pune, there's a lot of excitement people may have because he's a big man and people, want to see and they do a lot of things. They want to come and sit. But they're no personal relationship. They're not bothered about the personal pleasure of Prime Minister. They just see him and they're favorable towards him and they want some favor from, right? They're not having a personal relationship of service with him, but they are favorably inclined towards him. They accept him as the Prime Minister and they back to him for some favor. So similarly, Karmis, Jnani, Yogis, they all have to accept the personality of Godhead, not impersonally. And that personality of Godhead, they have to render some service, either in the form of deity worship, in the form of hearing, chanting. And that bhakti, which is not pure bhakti, which is not exclusive bhakti, which is not keval bhakti, but that bhakti is the one which awards them the fruit of their karma process, jnana process, yoga process. That is the Gaudiya bhakti. So here, there's the Jnana Mishra Bhakti, it's Bhakti Mishra Jnana is being described, and then the other part, Yoga Mishra Bhakti will be described. So here, Sukadeva Goswami is describing about the Virat Rupa meditation, and for that he's mentioning the process of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. So he describes the process, and then Parikshit Maharaj asks the question: mind is still impure, then how do we make it steady? So a yogi whose mind is unsteady, he has to meditate on the Virat Rupa form of the Lord. So then from text 24 onward, the text description of the Virat Rupa is come. For that yogi who is attached, whose mind is not yet pure, and mind get purified by meditating on the Virat Rupa form of the Lord. As usual, as Srila Prabhupada does in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, also, Dhyana Yoga chapter. So Prabhupada's purports are customized. They are totally, this is from Vishwanath Thakur's part. He writes 2 or 3 lines. This is talking about Yam, this is talking about Asana. But Prabhupada will take that purport and give it an entire, explanation of how Bhakti Yoga is the one to practice, how to do that. So the purports are quite elaborate, the section. So this is how this chapter flows, and next chapter we will discuss after this chapter. So text number 15 we will discuss. That's where we stopped yesterday. We're talking about the last moments of leaving this world. Antakale tu purusha agate gata sadvasa chindayada sangha shastrena ispraham dehe nu yechatam.
At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it, and all desire thereof.
So it is a little bit similarity with the first verse of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. What is that? That banyan is described. Urdhvam Mudho Adho Then next verse, second one. Asanga Shastrena Redena Chitta. So that's it. Chindayat Asanga Shastrena. By the Asanga Shastrena, by the weapon of detachment, one should cut off all these desires of material attachment. So here, Sukadeva Goswami advises that at the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment. So the question was asked, what should the dying man do? So Anta Narayana Smriti, that was told, but then now he's further elaborating that one should perform yoga to enter into Brahman with ease after giving up the body by your will through yoga. So in this verse, he speaks of the excellence of the yoga process, which was held by some of the sages, not Parikshit Maharaj, but some of the sages were Jnani, yogis. It's a mixed audience. It is not a totally and absolutely a pure devotee audience. It's a mixed audience. So that's why in between Parikshit Maharaj keeps on clarifying things. And at the end, at the end of like 10th canto is over, 11th canto, the 12th canto will ask the question. And at the end, Sukadeva Goswami glorifies the process of jnana. So those who want to draw out alternative conclusions from Bhagavatam is like Kalpavriksha. So it gives all options. Anybody can withdraw any conclusion from that. Even the demons have their statements recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam. Somebody said, well, I want to follow Bhagavatam. I'll follow Hiranyakashipu. It's there, the pages of Bhagavatam. But as Prabhupada has been writing, and we have been studying yesterday, that the true purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, the true essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is revealed to those who are blessed by the mercy of the previous Acharyas and the spiritual master, not others. Others have the examples to show that they may know the text of Bhagavatam, they don't know the purpose of Bhagavatam. Like, for example, Hiranyakashipu's whole preaching is recorded in Bhagavatam, which is nice, which is perfect, which is Shastra Yukta. And Kamsa also, after his attempt to kill that, the Mahamaya phase, and he also spoke very, very sober philosophy, which is Shastra Sammat. They knew the scriptures, not that they were not having knowledge of scripture. They had the knowledge of scripture, but they were not knowing the purpose of scripture. Shukracharya is telling Bali Maharaj that he is Vishnu, you should not give him anything. He knew the scripture. He told him that you will say that you have already committed, but I will tell you, where all in the scripture it says that you can break your commitment. Shukracharya ran his chat GPT and those things. They didn't need all these things. They are so powerful. They can just think and, well, somebody when one's own life is at stake, somebody in the marriage party, while joking, like this, 6 or 7 reasons he tells when one can tell a lie. So they knew Shastras, but not the goal of the Shastras. So that's why in that assembly, when all people are sitting, there were many who were not oriented towards pure devotion service. So because the great devotee, they want to do good for everyone. So Srimad Bhagavatam, like Kalpraksha, there's actions which will satisfy everyone. So this was the opinion held by some sages in the assembly. So there's one opinion will be given at the end of the second chapter, and he will say that all this is on one side, and serving the Supreme Lord with devotion is one side. Krishna also does that. He will describe the whole path. Do this, do that. Like, for example, in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he will tell that go to forest, make an asana, not too high, not too low, keep the eyes half closed, meditate on the Lord, and do this, do that. And at the end, he says, Yogi Nam Visarvesa Mat Gate Nandara Shraddhavan Bhajate Yoma Same Yukta Tamo Mata. So at the end, he will give his opinion. Whom does he consider the best? Rest all describe the whole thing in that. It's up to you. You want to hear my opinion or want to hear general opinion. So many times it is done. Similarly, in the 8th chapter, Attaining the Supreme of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will talk about, this is the path of light and the path of Uttarayan, and this is the door, and this is where it goes, and the whole thing he will describe. And then after that, Arjuna will become confused. The choice kaun karenge? It's not in one's hand. The yogis can do that. Very tough. So at the end, he will say that Tesham aham samudharta Mrityu samsara sagarat Shirami nam bhavat partho Mahi Aveshita. Those who are attached to me, they don't have to bother about it. So he will tell his opinion, but he will give a scope for others also to exercise their intelligence if they want to. So that's why here the Bhakti Mishra Gyan path is being told here. And Prabhupada in his own compassionate way, whenever the verses come which are like focusing on proving the futility of the material existence and talking about serious acceptance of the spiritual path, Prabhupada very alert and very elaborately writes. So these are very repeated message if you see all throughout. What is the repetition? Material life is futile. One should not be materially attached. One should try to come out of this material attachment. Try to focus on the spiritual life. That's the basic message. But repeated multiple times because repetition is necessary so that we can imbibe that thing, so that we can really understand the importance of that thing. Without repetition, sometimes we fail to understand the mood, like Harinam Sankirtan. Unless there was a repetition, we didn't realize it's so important. So, because of repeated announcement, then now mood is come. Because repetition not there, then that gravity of the message is not somehow understood.
So in this regard, one question comes in my mind that detachment and irresponsibility. How this means sometimes we are detached, but some other people may think we are irresponsible. So, for example, you are acting as a vice president, but you have some role to play, and someone says, "Don't worry about it," but you know that you are responsible for this, and so your authority says to you that you don't care, other person will be taking care of this, but you are actually responsible for this. So in that sense, how do we detach that?
No, it's simple. We all are functioning in one system where there's a hierarchy of people who are operating and guiding. So now if general man says, Prabhu, you don't worry about this, then that is, we can't take his order as supreme or his advice as an order. But then if somebody who is responsible, whom we are reporting to, who's hierarchically above us, if they are saying that, do that, then we can explain that I'm also accountable to that person. We both can talk and relieve me if that's the case. So managerial duties can always be clarified, if not understood. So we are responsible. That responsibility is handed over to us by someone. And while doing that responsibility, we have to do our best and yet be willing to accept whatever results come. We try for the best result. Detachment does not mean to not try for the best results. That's not detachment. Detachment means that after our trying the best, whatever result comes, to accept it with a grateful heart. It is not that we are so detached that we say, okay, book gaya, nahi gaya, jana nahi. No, we try our best to give the books or to invite the boys or to, celebrate a festival. We do our best. But after doing our best, then whatever is the outcome which comes, then we accept it with a grateful heart. And if there's a lesson to learn, we try our best next time. So we cannot follow everyone's dictation on what should be responsible and what we should not responsible for. This is well defined in the system. We are appointed for some role, we are given some position, or we are given some profile. So we know somebody is given that. We can ask them, what exactly is my boundary, my limit? And they will clarify that. We don't have to choose it on our own. We can always clarify. So here again, Srila Prabhupada beats down the materialistic nature of people in general. And very important few things it says here. Foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making permanent settlement in this world, although it is a settled fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human. So this was earlier also. One sees one's grandfather died, great grandfather died, and everyone will die, but still is not able to think that he has to leave this world one day. This poor fund of knowledge, even in the so-called learned circle of the world, is killing the vitality of human energy. The awful result is being keenly felt. Now, with so much technical advancement, people are very dissatisfied. There are so many cases of addictions to smoking, drinking, gambling, watching things, wrong things, committing suicides at the end of the day. So there are a lot of things happening, and although so-called technological advancement has happened, but it has not made people's life better and happy. So talks about the change of the body like an old garment. Change of body is called death. And death is the process of changing the body at the end of duration of present life. Intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. The best body is the spiritual body, which is attained by those who go back to home, back to the kingdom of God. So this will be further discussed, it says. Foolish person attach more importance to the present temporary life, and thus the foolish leaders not make appeals to the body and the bodily relations. That talks about the bodily and the further expansion of the body. So while sleeping, we forget everything, but this is only temporarily forgotten. Actually, we die every day. When we are sleeping, it's as good as death. But it's just that we wake up in the same frame of what we consider reality. And when we actually die, then we wake up in another frame where everything else will change. But actually, we have no connection with what we consider as real. Develop another term of bodily engagement. So he said, therefore, one has to only change the aspiration. I mean, body is awarded according to aspiration. Yam yam vapi swaran bhavam tajite ante kale. Tam So body is as per aspiration. So one has to change the aspiration during this present body, and there is a need of training in the current duration of human life. So the goal of training at any level is to actually change the desires of the person. to change the attitude of the person. It is not to, when the attitude changes, then the behavior and habits will also follow. Once the, aspiration changes. Like, for example, we all have seen waking up time or sleeping time. So when we understood the value of Bhakti process and we understood the value of Brahma Murta, then we modified our life. Otherwise, I don't think that most of us were ever waking up before 6 or 7. Like, even if we were religious and pious, and we'll get up at 7 o'clock and we'll be considered a saint in the assembly of lost. At 6, we'll be considered a yogi. 5, we'll be considered a divine person. Right. Later on, as we become devotees, in our voice, the morning call used to be there at 3:45 a.m. If you don't get up at 3:45 now, 3:45 to report. So then the aspirations change when the purpose of life. This training can begin at any stage or a few seconds before, but the usual process is to get the training from early life. All are these stages of training. Then we talked about Varnashram Dharma, one person sannyasa ashram. So here, the one very important thing is here. Yeah. The best thing is therefore that everyone voluntarily give a family relation by transferring attachment from family, society, country, and everything thereof to the devotional service of the Lord. It is stated herein one should give up all desire of family attachment. One must have a chance for better desires, otherwise there is no chance of giving up morbid desires. Param Drishta Nivartati. So unless we develop the higher desires, better quality desires, the lower desires will not go away. And the living entity is eternal, desires are also eternal, but the subject matter of desires can be changed. And this is the crux of this part. So one must develop the desires for returning home back to Godhead. And automatically the desires for material gain, honor, and popularity, puja, labh, and pratishtha, will diminish in proportion to the development of devotional service. So this is the key, that the more we become focused on our desire to go back to Godhead, to love and serve Krishna, the more one become detached, or the other desires diminish in proportion to the development of devotional service. And the perfection of such a service attitude is only attained simply by transferring the desire of service from matter to spirit, from Satan to God. The desire is there, but rather than desiring for things and people disconnected from Krishna, we desire that in connection with Krishna. That's the important point. So this is the main highlight, that one must develop the desire for returning home back to Goddess. And automatically the desires for gain, material honor, popularity will diminish in proportion. And how do we develop that desire? That desire comes by the proper process of hearing and chanting. That's why Shravanam Kirtanam is the foundation. When we hear, we also desire things. When we hear, why do we give so much value to the senior devotees, sannyasis, proper disciples, gurus? Because they have developed that desire very intensely. By their association, by hearing from them, we also get ignited. Right? Just like one candle is lit, then it can lit the other candle. So they are lit up candles, and we are like lit up, and then we go off and off. वो गीला है, ऑफ एंड ऑन, जितना अग्नि के संपर्क में रहता है उतने क्या सूख जाता है तो then one day we also get lit up, enlightened, then we can also travel and enlighten. Till now we have some smoke and some light, चल रहा है. फ्लेम दूसरी जगह चला गया तो कुछ थोड़ा डलनेस आ जाता है, क्या है, become confused. But once we also lit up, then we can dry up others and lit them up also. That's a parampara, that's a process. Together. ग्रहात् प्रवर्जितो धीरः पुण्यतीर्थ जलाप्लुतः शुचौ विविक्त आसीनो विधिवत् कल्पितासने.
One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, you should bath regularly and sit down in a lonely place purely sanctified.
So then after that you should chant the Omkara. So Bhakti Vishnu Chaitra Thakur has given the two translations together. Prabhupada made them two also different. So this is the yoga process, which is very similar to what Krishna is describing in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But Prabhupada will take it in a different direction altogether. He said that, so Vishnu Chaitra Thakur said, Dhira represents the first stage, yamas, such as brahmacharya, what should you call it? Bathing in the holy river represents the second stage of niyama. Sitting on the asana made according to rule of Kusha asana, chanting the 3-syllable Om pranayama. And then one should make the mind motionless. So that's the process. Purpose is to prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of the one's so-called home. And then it is Varnashram Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, that is all created so that you can get out of the house. Modern civilization is based on bodily comforts, the highest standard amenities, and therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live in a comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. So, bound by such hallucination, that where they plan for more comfortable life, but death comes and pick up us. So, like that, purpose again very emphatically taking the energy of the human life should not be wasted. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the info of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. Principle is that one should take it for granted that the death warning is already there even prior to the attainment of 50 years, but at least at 50 one should be very, very alert that now anytime it can happen. So, intelligent person must go to the holy places at the end of life and live a life of spiritual regeneration. One is recommended to quit home to get rid of material attachment. So, as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. Now, this is a very important section, good for brahmacharis. One should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association, again become family men by illicit connection with the opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. It applies to both, especially it applies to brahmacharis. But we have left a home where we could have our own room, we could have our own flat actually, not just room, 2 BHK, 3 BHK. We could have our own kitchen, attached toilet bathroom, our own schedule. Here, after we have left the home and room, we should not become attached to our locker and our dormitory and our place of sleeping because somehow the mind's nature is that we don't realize what we have given up to gain what we have accepted. And sometimes here becomes a trouble. Sometimes, one time one brahmachari said, मैं बोला ये हाथ में एसी चालू कर राखी बांधा है नहीं तो जी मेरा सिस्टर ने बांधा कोई सिस्टर नहीं है नहीं that Mataji considered a sister. Actually, brahmacharis have no business like that. This Raksha Bandhan, when brahmachari is going out, one Grasta devotee called me. My wife considers this brahmachari as her brother, so she ties Rakhi. Every year we do that. Message purpose. I become so heavy. I said, see, we have given up our own mothers and sisters to become brahmacharis. We have sufficient of that. So we don't want to create new relationships of mothers and sisters. Brahmachari only one relationship, Mataji, that's what Mr. said. Mataji Bolne. So sometimes we give up family life, we give up our home, we give up our office, we give up our salary, our income, we give up our comforts of life, right? We give up our independence because independence is associated with the money. Then we become attached to the tiny, puny things of the ashram. What is the connection it is? What a brahmachari has to go on making around sisters around? Is it the duty of a brahmachari to make sisters with somebody? So every year he comes. It's nonsense actually. So what happens that brahmacharis, if they don't really strive to develop higher taste through service, as Haldarmala says, mamatva, mandir mera hai, seva meri hai. Unless they develop that consciousness, what happened? The home they have left क्योंकि घर पे तो naturally रहता है क्योंकि उसका भाड़ा देना है उसको खरीदा है ना तो उसको पता है रजिस्ट्री किया है मेरे नाम पे उसका हाउस टैक्स देना है उसका सोसाइटी टैक्स देना है तो उसको पता चलता है घर मेरा है तो वो घर का ध्यान रखता है राइट और यहाँ आने के बाद क्या है कि मंदिर मेरा हुआ नहीं घर मेरा है नहीं तो बीच में क्या है बीच में वो त्रिशंकु बन जाता है क्योंकि अहम मामेति दिस आइडेंटिटी हैज टू बी डिफाइंड ना हु एम आई एंड व्हाट इज माइन सो ब्रह्मचारी लाइफ इज मेंट फॉर realizing the identity in connection with aham dasosmi. I am a servant of Krishna, servant of Krishna. And Mahamati, whatever is Krishna's, that is mine to take care, not to enjoy. Whatever is Krishna's is mine for service, not for enjoyment. So unless that aham Mahamati get transferred, he will become a bhuta only. He's Adi Bhuta and Brahma Bhuta. He's not become Brahma Bhuta and he's not become Jiva Bhuta. He's in between. He's a Bhuta only. From Jiva to Brahma, he has not become Brahma. So the brahmachari has to. That's why for a brahmachari, connection to Guru and serving the Guru and considering everything in relation to Guru is the most important aspect. Brahmachari, Guru Kule Vasan. Danto, Guru Rita. Acharan, Dasvat, Nichu. Guru, Sutra, Sohrid. All 4 lines Guru is there. This is the Parivasa Sutra for Brahmachari. Why? Because just like a Grasta gets married to one lady and then is married. Whatever was the relation before or not, now he's married. And depending, he will come and bring his salary to her or take her for outing. I mean, the photo changes. Earlier, whosoever photo may be there. Now there is only one photo. Yeah, really it happens. Even devotees it happens. I don't think the devotee doesn't happen. Devotee also sometimes they feel a little shy to keep wife's picture, but child's picture 100%. Child's picture 100% there because they don't feel it. Wife's picture thoda shyness रखता है. कोई देख लेगा, ब्रह्मचारी साथ में लेना. So this is the attachment. 9 o'clock, any grasta is there in temple, call will come. You can talk. 9 से सवा को call आ जाए कहाँ पर. So that attachment is there. That connection is there. He doesn't feel that he has no one to serve and no one to take care of. He feels totally connected. And for 25, 30 years, there was no connection. He was not knowing where is she and she was not knowing where is he, but they feel so intimately connected. So brahmachari has to feel the same degree of responsibility and connectivity with the spiritual master. He doesn't have to feel मेरा कौन है संसार में, मैं क्यों हूँ आश्रम में, मैं बीमार हो गया तो कोई देखने नहीं आया. So brahmachari has to have that level of consciousness where at a transcendental plane, one can feel connected to the spiritual master personally. Physically, spiritual master may not be so close. Personal connection, one should be able to feel that. This is all arrangement of spiritual master. Whatever we are doing, whatever we are taking, whose arrangement is that? Srila Prabhupada's arrangement. At the temple, what do you put? Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Mandir, ISKCON Pune, founder Acharya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila. It's mandatory. अब हमने से तो प्रॉपर आए नहीं, प्रॉपर जमीन खरीदा नहीं. अभी भी जमीन का जो डील होता है वो जो ट्रस्ट के नाम पे पेपर बनता है, किसी इंडिविजुअल के नाम पे नहीं. ब्यूरो ऑथोराइज करता है वो व्यक्ति को साइन करने के लिए, लेकिन जो ट्रस्ट है वो इस्कॉन के नाम पर ही जाता है, जो भी ब्यूरो का ट्रस्ट है. सो it's all one should learn to see it in connection with Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya and the mercy of the spiritual master. By his order, we are doing whatever we are doing. By feeling that kind of connection, one will be totally sheltered and connected and safe. वो कनेक्शन नहीं है तो जाएगा किधर? मेटल कनेक्शन छोड़ दिया, स्पिरिचुअल कनेक्शन पकड़ा नहीं है तो बीच में थोड़ी लटका रहेगा. लिविंग एंटिटी is tatastha. That means it has to be on one side. It can't be in between, right? So we have come out of that material orbit, but we also have to get into the spiritual orbit. Otherwise, it says that even after quitting one's happy home, one can again fall back into the same trap. Right? So one should be very, very careful. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to be self-controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sexual. And then the method is one should have a duly sanctified sitting place. And the sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of the Lord without offense, as prescribed above. The whole process is to take the mind from material engagement and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This will help one advance. And now, this verse was already talked by Vishnu Chaitanya Thakur, but here Prabhupada will talk about the Omkar. Abhyasena manasa suddham tivrat brahmaksharam param mano yachcheta swaso brahma bijam avismaram.
After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters. And by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental solution.
So this is the transcendental sound vibration, sound representation of the Lord. Prabhupada talks about in Bhagavad Gita also. Says that among the sound I am Pranava Sarva Vedation. Omkar or the Pranava is the seed of transcendental realization. So the yogis chant that. They'll breathe in and while exhaling the ocean. Oh, oh. And they meditate. And that's how they slow down the breathing process and extend their life. Breathing fixed. Number of breaths are fixed. So more one breathes slowly and longer is the duration. Time fixed, breathing fixed. So then that's one way by, with breathing and sound. This is a mechanical way of cleansing the mind. It is a transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance, as devised by the experience of great mystic. And then one is able to bring the mind, which is material absorbed, under control. So again, Prabhupada, the mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. So you'll find that it's not so much about senses as we were talking yesterday. It's the mind. Now, through senses, we are reaching the mind, or we reach the mind directly through intelligence. Either way, mind is the central pivotal point through which the senses are guided. So we also simultaneously control the senses and train the mind, both. Because otherwise, if the senses are not trained, then the mind will never get trained. But if senses are engaged, but the mind is not yet focused, then also it will not happen. It's not automatically. One has to focus on restricting the senses and engaging the mind simultaneously. What is the verse of Bhagavad Gita which says that? Yukta asita matpara. Third. Yeah. What is it next? Vasishyasya indriyani. So on one hand, you control the senses, and yukta asita matpara. You have to engage the mind in me. Krishna says same thing. Man manabha mat bhakta. Engage the mind in thinking of me. So we should not feel, because bhakti we say is an automatic process. But a part of automation is that there is an endeavor to train the mind. It's a part of automation. It is not that mechanically doing all the activities and services, automatically mind will get it. It will help. But then one has to focus on training the mind exclusively also. One has to contemplate on the right thing, one has to hear the right thing, chant the right thing. Because hearing and chanting purifies the mind. Cheto dharma margana. But that has to be part of our endeavor. It is not that mechanically rendering services or mechanically performing the activities or the actions of Bhakti Yoga, the mind will automatically get cleansed. That part of automation is to consciously focus the mind, contemplate on that, using the intelligence. So, mind is the pivot of the active sense organs, and as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of action by the instrumental senses will also change. So, this part will be repeated elsewhere also, that once the quality of mind is changed, actions will happen. For very elevated devotees, mind is absorbed in Krishna. That's why activities are all based in service to Krishna. For us, the senses, mind, all are going towards sense gratification. So senses also are restricted so that they will not further agitate the mind, and mind is also treated by Shravanam Kirtana. Right? So in Bhagavad Gita, the Pranava Omkar has been accepted as the direct literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord as recommended above can easily chant the Pranava Omkar. Omkar is a note of address. Oh my Lord. Just as Om Hari Om means, oh my Lord, the Supreme Personal God. So Omkara and the holy name both are identical. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental person form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses are trained to the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the Pranava Omkar within the mind. And this is the translation of the verse. What is the verse? Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahayam indriya. Sevan mukhavi jivvado. So here again it says, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activity, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees fix their mind on the person of the absolute truth, but one is unable to accommodate such person which of the absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. So here now it talks about the dharana process. Here is the translation.
Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdrawal of sense activities and the intelligence the senses will become clear. The mind, too absorbed in mental activities, can be engaged in service of personality of Godhead and become fixed into transcendental consciousness.
Yeah. So I would say that one should restrain the senses such as the eye from the sense object by the mind, whose assistant is the intelligence, and concentrate with the intelligence on the Lord. And mind may get agitated by the previous karmas also. So here it says that This is the sixth stage of dharana. The mind is described as that which is impossible to make motionless with pranayam and other processes because of the extreme strength of the previous curve. So, purposes. The first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of the pranava omkar and by controlling the breathing process, technically called the process of pranayam. Ultimate stage is samadhi. But experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. And then he gives the example of Vishwamitra Muni, how he became a victim of the senses. The mind also ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status and thus disturbs one from 100% engaged in self-realization. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of the assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shri Krishna also recommends the direct process in Bhagavad Gita 6.47 saying, Madgaten Antaratma. Thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. Performed under proper guidance. The process of hearing, chanting performed under proper guidance. That is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed. So here the key is that although the Ashtanga Yoga process may try to restrain the mind, and one may go to secluded place and one may, try to be in dharana samadhi, past impressions are there. And those past impressions can trouble one anytime. So that's why the yogis can undergo danger at any time. Because the mind is there within. It's there. No new impression, but past impression. Bhakta also faces the same challenge. Now we may not be indulging in wrong activities, but then whatever we have done in this life, and then the sum total of previous life, that is all recorded. It's all stored in the subconscious mind. And that is why sometimes, even though it may be a good day and you may have chanted on Ekadashi or festival day, still the mind can just get into a useless kind of thought process and get agitated. So what is the next level of assured policy, insurance policy? Engage the mind in service of the Supreme Personality of God. So that's where, like the process which Prabhupada gave, that you chant 16 rounds, attend morning program, and whole day be engaged in service. That purifies the mind. Chanting purifies the mind, but engaging in service with a desire to please Hari Guru and Vaishnava is also purifying. We have a limit. We don't have adhikar that we can chant whole day or things like that. But by engaging in service, knowing the purpose of that service, that will also purify. Taking the service as an opportunity to please the Vaishnavas, please the spiritual master, please the Lord, and doing with that intention, not with the intention of impressing someone or getting praise for oneself. The motive is wrong. That's the problem. The right motive, we engage in service also, it's very purifying. So that's why I say perform under proper guidance. The process of hearing, chanting, and service all has to be under guidance. Because what to hear, what to chant is also a great subject matter. It is not that we can read anything from anywhere, anytime. When to read Bhagavad Gita, when to read Bhagavatam, when to read Chaitanya, when to read Krishna book, when to read Nectar Devotion, when to read other Acharya's book. That has all to be done under blessing, as per our Adhikar. Now what is happening is the books are out. So people have not yet read Bhagavatam, not yet read Chaitanya Charitamrita, not yet read Nectar Devotion, not yet read other Prabhupada books. But then they're directly jumping into such sandarbhas just to get some masala out of it. That's wrong. So as such, there is no conflict between what Prabhupada has stated that one should read the Acharya's commentary and some people saying that one should only read Prabhupada books. Look, sometimes in our temple also, you can sense it subtly happening. So actually, if you read Prabhupada's statement, it's very clear. When he talks about a sincere devotee, a serious devotee. So sincere and serious means that he has to read Prabhupada's book. That only you become sincere serious. You can't call somebody who's not reading Prabhupada's book as a sincere or serious person. Correct? And then somebody said, may read. May read means it's optional. Even if somebody is sincere serious, he may read, may not read. We have both examples. We have in Prabhupada's disciples' life, there are some devotees who just stick to Prabhupada's books. Straightforward. Just stick to Prabhupada's books. And whatever the purport and translation, they read, and they are wonderful speakers, they are wonderful inspirers, they are spiritual masters, they are inspiring so many people. All wonderful. And there are other disciples of Srila Prabhupada who have read other things, and they are also very deeply learned and they are taking the essence of that and combining it with Prabhupada's purport, are giving many wonderful literature to that. So there's no conflict as such that one should do one or the other. Both have to read Prabhupada's book deeply. Then apart from that, one can either just contemplate on that and connect to that and preach that. That is what is one's feeling. Or if somebody want to again know more deeply or again want to read more, then one can read that also. But all of it is after one has read everything what Prabhupada has given. At least the books. Ideal is books, lectures, letters, conversation. That is ideal. And those who will do it after doing that, then they will become very fixed up in Prabhupada's mood and they can read anything else also and understand the mood. But at least minimum bottom line is one has to read all Prabhupada books, even if you have not read all the letters and conversations and lectures. I would at least say, based on my talk with Prabhupada, at least Prabhupada's books and lectures. Because letters and conversations, there are a lot of context. They are also very important to understand Prabhupada's mood, but even they are very contextual. Even if one is not reading them, that's a different topic. But lectures are given to public. Right? Our process is the process of hearing. So we have to hear from an acharya. It's such a great fortune. Krishna sent Prabhupada when yesterday we were discussing in some forum that how Prabhupada's coming at a time is a very well chosen time. The planes have started flying, the dictaphones had come, electricity has come, cars have come, recording units have come, video cameras have come, right? Printing technology has got evolved. So a lot happened, and that's how Prabhupada could, in 11 years, could do a lot. Otherwise, imagine the planes would not have been there. How to travel in water? I mean, in a ship, you cannot do so much. So all these things happened in the 1960s on. A certain upgraded version. There were things, but certain upgraded handy version. Like now, how mobile is a handy version. No? If you have only that dial-wala phone, it's like limitation. No? Prabhupada also in India, he traveled a lot in trains. In India, Prabhupada did travel in flights. Air India was there at that time. But mainly he traveled in trains also. A lot of times he traveled in trains. So the journey was easy and sometimes they'll attach a whole bogie for Prabhupada. Like a Kumbh Mela, they attach a whole bogie. So sometimes they'll do that. So they traveled in trains, not against trains. So everything was put in place for Prabhupada to be there and to, set the foundation for movement for next 10,000 years. So that is why reading all Prabhupada's books and hearing all lectures, which is not a very, it's like one does it gradually, it can be done in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on the speed. Then after that, one can see what is the level of interest and intellectual understanding and his purpose. And after blessing, then he may read more or may not read. Repeat again, read the same thing again. No harm in either. So these are not two different things. But the matter is, if performed under proper guidance. The guide has to decide what a person should do. For one person, he will say, yes, it is your duty to read the scripture and bring out the essence. And for others, he will say that your duty is to grow tulsi in the garden. And both will attain perfection because it is by guidance. Right? Hazar Maharaj gives that example, no? That somebody used to go to he was saying Loki go, that example he gives that you should grow Loki or something like that. So under guidance is very important. We cannot take our mind as authority and decide anything, which book I should read, how I should do this or not do this. And before we go there, this is a standard thing which is set for everyone. Read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya. That doesn't require any specific thing also. And read in that order. Bhagavatam also yesterday we were seeing that one should not jump, start from Canto 1 and go to Canto 12. Read Chaitanya. So that's under guidance, and one may read other literature as per one's interest and blessings of the spirits. So let's go to the next verse.
Thereafter, you should meditate upon the links of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other things to be thought upon, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is the ultimate truth. The mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only.
So here the meditation on the form of the Lord Vishnu is suggested. So after purifying the mind becomes detached from sense object. So do not think of anything else. And that is the Brahman aspect of Lord in which mind is actually. So now the dharana, dhyana. Dharana makes the mind steady by the concentration of the Lord in general. A meditation or dhyana is a more complete steadiness of the mind produced by contemplating the limbs of the Lord. So dharana is like in general the form of the Lord. And dhyana is now meditating on the limbs, the feet, the calves, the belly, the arms, the chest, the face, like that. And this is uninterrupted consciousness. So this is the stage of dhyana. The purpose is that foolish persons, bewildered by the external energy of Vishnu, do not know that the ultimate goal of the progressive search after happiness is to get in touch directly with the Lord Vishnu. Therefore, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon the transcendental form of Vishnu, specifically upon Lord Krishna, is the last word on the subject of meditation. Meditation begins from the lotus feet of the Lord. One should not ever forget or be misled from the complete form of the Lord. Thus, one should practice thinking on the different part of transcendent body one after another. And here it is assured that Lord is not impersonal, he is a person, but his body is different from those of conditioned person like us. Otherwise, meditation beginning from the Omkara up to the limbs of the body of Vishnu will not have been recommended by Sri Guru. And then it talks about great temples of India are not arrangement of idol worship, as they are wrongly interpreted to be by a class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Rather, they are different spiritual centers of meditation on the transcendental limbs of the body of Vishnu. Therefore, neophyte's concentration or meditation on the limbs of Vishnu in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scripture, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate upon Pranava Omkar. Common man can benefit more by meditating on the form of Vishnu in the temple than on the Omkar. So, but person who are not acquainted with the science of absolute truth, they try to create dissension by the differentiating between the forms of Vishnu and that of Omkar. So, Vishnu form is the ultimate goal of meditation, and as such, it is better to concentrate upon the forms of Vishnu than on impersonal Omkar, because the later process is also more difficult than the former. 12th chapter, first verse says. 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That this meditation process is difficult. What is this? Kleshvadik saras tesham avyakt asakta avyakt. So he says that it starts from Omkara, but it concludes in meditating on the limbs of the Lord. Read the translation.
One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature. But one can rectify such conception by the revelation of Vishnu and thus become classified by cleansing the dirty things created by.
Yeah. So mind is there in the mode of passion and ignorance, but by connecting to Krishna, by engaging mind in the service of the Lord, meditating on the Lord, one can become pacified by cleansing this. The wise man controls the mind agitated by rajas and bewildered by tamas with the practice of dharana. So it says that if they are disturbed by guna, one should make dharana form. Purposes. People generally conducted by mode of passion and ignorance cannot be bona fide candidate for being situated in the transcendental stage of God realization. Only person conducted by the mode of goodness can have the knowledge of the supreme truth. And effect of the mode of passion and ignorance is hankering too much after wealth and woman. So then, such people can rectify their leaning only by constant remembrance of Vishnu's potential impersonal feature. Generally, the impersonalists or monists are influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance. Such impersonalists think of themselves liberated souls, but have no knowledge of the transcendental personal feature of the Absolute. They are actually impure in heart of account of being devoid of knowledge of the personal feature of the Absolute. So, to acquire such a qualification of God realization in the personal feature, the neophyte impersonalist is given a chance to realize the relation of the Lord in everything by the philosophy of pantheism. Pantheism means to see God everywhere. But then this seeing God everywhere is like connecting everything to God's form in one way. It will be described in the Virat Rupa. doesn't mean that everything becomes worshipable. That's not the meaning. Proper test that. Pantheism in its higher status does not permit the student to form an impersonal conception of the absolute truth. Pantheism is not that everything is worshipped as God, everything is worshipped as part of God. Like the hill is there. So hill is not that hill is worshipped as God. Hill is worshipped as the bone of the Lord. Right? Rivers are worshipped as the veins of the Lord. So pantheism is actually propagating a personal conception of the Lord, but it's in Virat Rupa form. Pantheism is not proposing that there are many gods. There's one supreme God, but his supremacy is manifesting through different objects which we can see in this room, different metal objects. But it extends the conception of the absolute truth into the field of the so-called material energy. You get it? Pantheism doesn't mean to worship many gods. One God, but his greatness is manifesting in the form of many material objects. And everything created by the material energy can be dotted with absolute by an attitude of service, which is the essential part of living energy, that is Bhakti. Pure devotee of the Lord knows the art of converting everything into its spiritual existence by this service attitude. And only in that devotional way can the theory of pantheism be perfect.
When that was okay by the system of remembrance, I am being fixed in the habit of seeing the all good personal conception of the Lord. One can very soon attain devotional service to the Lord under his direct shelter.
So Vishankar Thakur says that in this process of dharana, the yogi who sees the Lord by dharana quickly completes Bhakti Mishra Yoga. Purposes. Success of mystic performance is achieved only by the help of the devotional attitude. It says, in the dharana yoga, which has the qualities of bhakti, Bhakti Mishra Yoga, in which the person desires for liberation but not without some bhakti, is accomplished for the yogi who sees the Lord. So pantheism or seeing system of feeling the presence of the Almighty everywhere is a sort of training of the mind to become accustomed to the devotional conception. And it is this devotional attitude of the mystic that makes possible the successful termination of such mystic attempt. One is not, however, elevated to such a successful status without the tinge of mixture in devotional service. And then it says that impersonal way of self-realization is more troublesome because it reaches the goal in an indirect way. Although the impersonal also becomes obsessed with the personal feature of the Lord after a long time. Now, this one way of process is described that purify the mind, go to dharana, go to dhyan, connect everything to the Lord. Now, Raja Uvacha, Parishit Maharaj is asking this question. Yatha sandharyate brahman dharana yatra sammata yadrishiva haridashu purushasya manomalam.
The fortunate king Parikshit, inquiring further, said, O Brahma, please describe in full details how and where the mind has to be applied, with how the conception can be fixed, so that is in a person mind can be fixed.
So again, the two kinds of yogi. The yogi with material desires, with material conditions, then he is advised to purify the mind by meditating on the Virat. And the yogi whose mind is already pure, he can meditate on the limbs of the Lord in his Parvata. That we will discuss later. Also. So he's saying, how is dharana accomplished? What is the approved object of concentration? How can one quickly remove the contamination in the mind? And he says, Vishwanath Thakur, that king is asking about Bhakti Mishra Yoga out of curiosity, not because he wants to practice. Because the student of Sukadeva Goswami, he would only have an inclination of pure bhakti like so. So, dirty thing in the heart of a conditioned soul are the root cause of all trouble for him. And what is the dirty thing? He is actually meant to serve the will of the Supreme Lord, but on account of the dirty thing in the heart, he likes to serve his concocted desires. That is the dirt. Because the dirty thing, rather than serving the Lord, a seva bhav turns into bhogavritti. This is the dirt. This is the contamination. Seva bhav into bhogavritti. Desire to serve turns into desire to enjoy. So, in a sense, the process of bhakti is to again turn back bhogavritti into seva bhav. Somebody asked one line definition of bhakti. Transition from bhogavritti to seva bhav. In essence, you want to enjoy, you want to be center of everything. From that stage, come to a stage where only Krishna's pleasure is our goal. So these desires, instead of giving him any peace of mind, create new problems, thus bind him to the cycle of repeated birth and death. These dirty things of fruitive work and empiric philosophy, these are the bijas in that teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami. Brahmana Brahmate Ganu Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Leka Bij. So Prabhupada also talks that there are other bijas also. There are bijas of karma, jnana and yoga. These bijas are also there in the heart of the living entity. So Bhaktilata bija is put by the Guru and nourished by Sravanam Kirtanam, but these bijas also have to be removed. Otherwise, they will give rise to weeds. Like, for example, sometimes like Chaturmas, Adhikmas, grow the beard and do something. These are all weeds of Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga now, there's a lot of talk going on Tapasya that Achyut Keshav gave a wonderful class. Wake up early in Brahma Murta, chant in the association of devotees and cooperate. इतना काफी आप स्वीट खाओ मत खाओ दाढ़ी बढ़ाओ मत बढ़ाओ लेकिन मंगल आरती आके जप कर लो भक्तों के साथ कॉपरेट करो वो उससे बड़ा चीज है दाढ़ी बढ़ाने में इतना एनर्जी नहीं लगता है जितना कॉपरेट करने में लगता है so these are weeds of Jnana Yoga. People quote from here and there, they will quote from Puranas. These are all weeds. They're not taught by our founder Acharya. So I should not get into that unnecessarily. Or yoga thing, doing mystic yoga. We can do yoga just to keep our body fit for serving Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna. That's the purpose for yoga. That day, on the close quoting, Bhattacharya Prabhu asked him, why don't we eat grains on Ekadashi? Typical story, what is the story? What happened in the grains? Since residing there, Papa Purusha resides sometimes. So he asked, then what about Mahaprasad? Mahaprasad is what? Krishna Fela, no? There's a lot of discussion in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Mahaprasad. It is touched by the lotus lips of Krishna. Krishna's saliva is mixed with that. Because we follow Ekadashi the way Prabhupada taught us, that's all. Why Prabhupada followed it? Mahaprabhu followed it. In Prem Vyavarta, a talk between Jagadanand Pandit and that literature written by him, there's a chapter on Ekadashi. Devotees went to Mahaprabhu and asked, should we follow or not follow? And there are quotes given from either side. In Jagannath Puri, Ekadashi is not followed. Mahaprabhu decided we should follow. And we are guardians, we follow him. That's right. So one should know the right spirit of following things. If the spirit is not right, because Bhakti is all about spirit, it's all about intention, it's all about the right consciousness. Then we may get, we may catch the activity without the right intention, the right consciousness. Then it will not give the desired result of softening the heart and awakening the feelings of love for Krishna. That will not happen. One will get different kind of sukrati with that. Jnana Unmukh Sukrati, Yoga Unmukh Sukrati, not Bhakti Unmukh Sukrati. So one has to be very, very clear in that aspect. Why we do what we do. But we should not get carried away by so many people saying so many things, so many scriptures saying so many things. Like today morning there was a discussion on whether we should worship Ganesh or not. So the whole background to that. But we should see Rupa Goswami Pad wrote about that in Nectar Devotion, but what did he do himself? Did he establish any Ganesha temple where he worshipped? He mentioned because that's a part of Vedic scripture, undoubtedly, it's a part. But we are going for a higher realm. We are going to worship Lord Narasimha. Right? We are reciting his Aarti every day, we are Narasimha. So when we are already worshipping somebody higher and superior, then again it is not that if I am watering the root, what is the harm in rooting, putting water on some branch and leaf also? It is not required. You're getting? Sometimes we want right? Many devotees in Gaudiya Math, they do Chaturmasas, very important vow for them. You'll see, you go to any Gaudiya Math in this season, they'll all have long beards and chanting many rounds and 18 once a day. They do many things. But for us, Prabhupada did not constitute it. So we cannot transcend him and say, well, we'll do what Gaudiya Math people do. We can't do that. We can't, override the instruction of the Acharya who found our societies. And let's become Gaudiya Math. Don't be ISKCON. ISKCON member is characterized by his spirit of practicing Krishna consciousness and preaching Krishna. That is the spirit which Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj carried. The law and Sima Guru. Prabhupada imbibed that spirit and he chastised his God brothers, saying that you all have become, Mathadipatis, you all have made mathas and people come and give donation and you eat, sleep, and that's all, not do any preaching. Prabhupada was very happy. Read his Vyasa Puja offering. And Prabhupada had that fear that in ISKCON also that tendency can come in. Because when institution grows, become difficult. How many times you see the list and see everyone is engaged or not? In Kunjibihari days, we always used to have a list in our pocket. And they were like names in white, names in saffron, names in yellow background. We had a printer. So we will see that list in a day 10 times. Iska backup hai, iska sath hai. Everything was managed centrally. Everybody moving out of temple was given. Get the Bhagavati get reflected in multiple ways. So that Bhagavati has to be over screen sharing rights. So that Bhagavati has to be overcome by Sevavati. That is the purpose. Only Jagdishwar Mohan Prabhu is there. Where are you, Jagdishwar Mohan Prabhu?
I'm in Burla now,
Huh?
Guruji, Burla.
Where?
Burla, Guruji.
Burla.
Yes, ma'am.
The Zoom is only for your pleasure. Nobody else likes it.
Mm.
Those persons who are unable to pin their faith on the person feature of the Lord are given a chance to associate with this Virat Rupa. Cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord is a feature of his unlimited potencies. So then potency and potent are one, that's right. And then he says that Maharaj Parisi was directly connected with the person feature, but he inquired after a detailed discussion of the matter for the benefit of others who are unable to conceive of the transcendental personal feature of the Lord as a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So there are many people who cannot understand the Lord as a person because when they say person, they feel that human limitations apply on him also. Right? Human limitations apply on him. So that's why they are not able to understand how the Supreme Lord is a transcendental person. Such men are ignorant of the inconsistent potency of the Lord. by the inconstant potency of the Lord, he can move in human society or any other society of living being and yet remain the same omnipotent Lord without deviating in the slightest from his transcendental position. So, without deviating in the slightest from his transcendental position. So, those who are not able to understand personal form, Maharaj Pariksit inquired from Sukadeva Goswami how to fix the mind on him in the beginning, and the Goswami replied in detail as follows. So, read the translation.
They also means one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process, and the yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses with intelligence. Apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Viratu.
Sthule Bhagavata Rupe, the Lord's form manifested in matter. Mana Sandharayet here. Control the mind, senses with intelligence, and apply. So that is the Virat root. For yogis who cannot concentrate on the Paramatma form, which is mentioned in 21, concentration on the universal form for removing the contamination of attraction and repulsion is described. The materially absorbed mind of the conditioned soul does not allow him to transcend the limit of the bodily conception itself. Thus, the yoga system of meditation, sitting position, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, is described in order to mold the character of the gross mentalist. Unless such mentalists are able to cleanse the materially absorbed mind, it is impossible for them to concentrate upon thoughts of transcendence. And to do so, one may fix one's mind on the gross material or external feature of the world. Like for us also in Krishna consciousness, when people come, it's easy for them to do some seva than to do bhajan. Right? You tell them, भाग में नहीं चल रहा है, गुंडी जमा लो, चलो. जो विजिटर आते हैं वो भी लग जाते हैं. So, देखते हो उसका वो भी थोड़ा कपड़ा वपड़ा लेकर रेलिंग साफ कर. They engage because that is like energy of the Lord. It's all Lord's. It's Lord's temple. But to connect with it, that is easier than to say कि बाबा तुम बैठ करके जगह बैठ करके पूरा 16 माला ध्यान पूर्वक करो. That's tough because the mind is not yet purified. So the energy of the Lord is more directly experienceable and connected as compared to the person form. So then the different parts of the gigantic form of the Lord are described further. And materialistic men are very anxious to have some mystic power as a result of such a controlling process. But the real purpose of yogic regulation is to eradicate the accumulated dirty thing, the 6 anarthas. If the mystic yogi get diverted by these accompanying feats, then his mission of yogic success is failure because the ultimate goal is God realization. So that's why people advise that okay, do that. Right? Next verse.
This genetic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the activity, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future of material timing experience.
Something like what Virat Rupa Krishna is showing. So there he is showing the future. He's showing that Bhishma, Drona, everything, they're flowing like the rivers into the mouth. And people like Duryodhana and Karna, they are getting crushed under the teeth. So the explanation is given that flowing in the river is like a natural process. So their consciousness is already fixed on the Lord and they will leave the body and enter the realm of transcendence. But those are material adults, they are getting crushed, like they're getting bitten by the teeth like that. So future is shown. And that's why Krishna says that all these people are already dead by my arrangement. Now, nimitta matrena. So in the universal form, the resultant past, present, and future of material time is explained. By meditating on all things heard and seen as the form of the Lord, as the Lord's outstanding vibhutis, hatred and envy and other bad qualities should never appear in the mind. Thus, the heart becomes pure with the absence of those negative qualities. Purity of heart, dharma on the form of Vishnu with the spiritual form becomes easy. So what happens when we look at the world as the energy of the Lord, then we give up attachment and aversion. Right? We don't become attached because it belongs to the Lord. We don't become averse because it belongs to the Lord. So that conception that the Lord is all pervading and everything is the creation of the Lord. Lord is the proprietor, Lord is the controller, Lord is the enjoyer. That consciousness develops by meditating on the Virat Rupa, by understanding how this material world is manifested and managed by the Supreme Lord. That is why in Bhagavatam, so many times the description of, in Subodhini, they call it CMD, creation, maintenance, destruction. And all the Devata's prayer will always mention this quality of the Lord. My dear Lord, you are the creator, you are the restorer. Without fail, it will come. Because he is that, and that's how they see him, and that's how they remember that all what they are ruling or enjoying is actually the creation of the Lord. They are helpless without his support. So it helps us to become Krishna conscious in a very broad way. So Krishna consciousness is like from broad to very narrow. Prabhupada writes that energy of Krishna is not different from Krishna. But then at the same time, when it comes to Krishna consciousness in its intense form, it is only for the two-handed Shyam Sundar form of Krishna, not even to Dwarka Krishna, but to say 400. So it is all. At one level, everything is energy of Krishna. Another level, when you go to person, then you want to go that Vrindavan Krishna, not even to the Dwarka Krishna. So Prabhupada says anything either material or spiritual is but an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Lord. And the relative world is also its phenomenal representation because it is nothing but an expansion of his transcendental energy. Therefore, he is in his abode, but his energy is distributed everywhere, as the fire expands rays and heat from one place. Less intelligent men cannot conceive of the transcendental or spiritual form of the Lord, but they are astounded by different energies, just as the aborigines are struck with wonder by the manifestation of lightning, a gigantic mountain, or a hugely expanded banyan tree. So they appreciate that. The Asuras cannot recognize the existence of the Lord, although their vivid description of the Lord is a revealed description. Although the Lord incarnate and exhibit his uncommon strength and energy, and although he is accepted as the supreme personality of Godhead by such great personalities like Narada, Sita, the Asuras do not accept any evidential proof from the revealed scripture, nor do they recognize the authority of the great Acharya. They want to see with their own eyes at once. So here it says, therefore, they can see the gigantic body of the Lord as Virat, which will answer their challenge. And since they are accustomed to paying homage to superior material strength like that of tiger, elephant, lightning, they can offer respect to Virat too. And for a devotee, it requires a special vision for this purpose. So, Lord favored Arjuna by giving him a special vision. Virat Rupa was manifested not for the benefit of Arjuna, but for the unintelligent class of men who accepted anyone and everyone as an incarnation of the Lord, and so misled the general mass of people. So then anyone can show us the Virat, act as a test. They call litmus test. Some acid you have to test, then you have to put blue will become red or red will become blue. Virat Rupa manifestation of the Lord is simultaneously a challenge to the atheist and a favor for the asuras. The challenge to the atheist because they can't deny it. They can't deny that the creation is coming from the Lord. They put theories, but they are baseless theories. So, and favor for the asuras because they want to see gross people. They can see, yes, this mountain is the bone of the Lord. This river is the vein of the Lord. These trees are the hair of the Lord. Like that they can see. This is the favor of the all merciful Lord to the atheist and the gross materialist. So now the description of this Virat Rupa will be there. After we take it. 12, 18 or 19 now. 12:30. So we will definitely complete this chapter and a few verses of the next chapter also. Now, I mean, Prabhupada write very elaborate purpose. If you have to go by just translation and Vishal Thakur's commentary, you can cover all 4 chapters in 3 hours. That's what. Because they go by literal thing, na? They go by literal thing. This is what they tell. The Prabhupada goes by that mood of compassion and trying to convince people and try to give an explanation and application. That's why it takes time. Okay. So 10 minutes break. Inshallah. So, on the request of Parishit Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami is now again explaining how one can concentrate his mind on the Supreme Lord when he not attained a certain level of purity. It's working. Hare Krishna. So now he's describing the Virat Rupa form by meditating on which the yogi whose mind is not yet fully in control can purify the mind. अंडकोशे शरीरेऽस्मिन् सप्तावरण संयुते वैराज पुरुषो योऽसो भगवान् धारणाश्रयः.
The gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal self, discovered by sevenfold material elements, is the subject for the Virat concept.
So this is the universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell. And there are sevenfold material element, the covering of Bhume, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, Khamman, Buddhiri, Evasha. So above the top of the universe also there are covering. Each layer is 10 times thicker than the previous layer. So within the universe these elements are there which are creating these metal bodies. And outside the shell of the universe these coverings are there. So this is the subject matter for the Virat conception. Where does he reside? In a universe of 500 million yojana breadth, 7 coverings and Mat Tattva. That is where he resides. The gross body belonging to the totality of jivas called Hiranyagarbha. And Garbhodakshay Vishnu, the second Purusha is the Antaryami of Hiranyagarbha. Universal form being worshipped as a representative is also called Brahma. So basically, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he resides in the universe. Right? And then from his navel, Brahmaji comes up. And then Brahmaji creates everything. So, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is the soul of this Virata Purusha and the entire universal shell. That is the form of the Lord. That is being conceived as the personality of God. So, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is considered the Antaryami. Hiranyagarbha is called the form and Garbhodakshayi Vishnu is the Antaryami, the soul of that. So, the soul of entire mental creation is which Vishnu? Karanadakshayi Vishnu. Because that Mahat Tattva and the Virja river lies there. So he is considered the soul of the entire material existence, material creation. Then he creates universe. Now within that one universe, that is called Hiranyagarbha, that is a universal form, Virat Rupa form. Within that, his expansion enters as super soul. What is that? Garbhodakshayi. Then the universe come up and everything else is created, and then every living entity's bodies are created, all other living entities are created, and then within them Shirodakshayi Vishnu. He enters the super soul. 3 levels of creation, 3 levels of super souls. So Prabhupada says the Lord is multifarious other forms, all of them are identical with the original form today. Original eternal form is Shri Krishna. But by his inconceivable internal potency, Atma Maya, he can expand into multifarious forms and incarnations simultaneously without being diminished in his full potency. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Udachyate. Purnasya Adaya Purnameva Nashashite. So everything is full and complete, and full and complete units can emanate from him, and then still what remains is complete whole. So this is the verse said that. Materialistic man can think although very imperfect as a huge universal space comprehending an innumerable number of planets as big as the sun. So they can see only the circular sky overhead. Without any information that this universe, as well as many other hundreds of thousands of universes, each covered by sevenfold metal coverings of water, fire, air, ego, and metal nature, just like a huge football pumped and covered, floating on the water of the causal ocean, wherein the Lord is lying as Mahavishnu. All of them are coming out of the breathing of that. The foolish materialistic person can just imagine how ignorantly he puts forward an insignificant creature to become his rival incarnation simply on the allegation of a dying man. Right? People say, "No, we are God." Oh, compared to this manifestation of the Supreme Lord, how can an ordinary person be God? The materialistic person may concentrate his mind upon the Virat or gigantic form of the Lord in his own interest and as recommended by Sukadeva Goswami, but he must be on his guard not to be misled by pretender who claim to be identical person with Lord Krishna but are not able to act like him or exhibit the Virat Rupa, comprehending the whole of it. How should one meditate on different limb? That is being described. पातालमेतस्य हि पादमूलं पठन्ति पाशुपतिरसातलं महातलं विश्वसिजोरगुरुमुखो परातलं वै पुरुषस्य जन्मे. So now in this universal form, which is the universe, the different planets are located at different places. Right?
Persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patal constitute the bottoms of the pit of the universal Lord, and the hills and the toes are the Rasatal planets. The ankles are the Mahatal planets, and his shanks constitute Talatal planets.
So Patal, Rasatal, Mahatal, and Talatal. So these are the meditation given. I think there's a picture also. The behind picture, there's a picture. The inside picture. Inside is there a picture? Paramatma's picture is there. You want Anyway, Prabhupada will say we cannot understand by our intelligence, but we cannot reject the version of the scriptures. He will say further it's a little concept. So, outside the bodily existence of the Lord, the manifested cosmic existence is no reality. The conception of the universal form of the Lord gives a chance to the materialist person to think of the Supreme Lord. But the materialist must know for certain that his visualization of the world in a spirit of lording over it is not God realization. The materialistic view of exploitation of the material resources is occasioned by the illusory energy of the external energy of the Lord. But as such, if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth by conceiving the universal form of the Lord, he must cultivate the service attitude. Unless the service attitude is revived, the conception of the Virat realization will have very little effect on the seer. So this whole purpose is to prove that the living entity is not the proprietor, controller, enjoyer. Rather, it is just a servant. And that is the feeling, that is the emotion, that is the attitude which is invoked in the person. Then only it will have effect. Otherwise, he will compete with the Lord. And universe is divided into 14 planetary system, and then he's describing that. Next one.
The means of the universal form of the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the two sides are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and outer space is the expression of heaven.
Yeah. So further, 4 planets, and now the Sutala, Vitala, Atala planet system, Mahitala. Yeah. Mahitala, the earth. Mahitala is earth. The world is the navel of the earth. Okay, next.
Just the original personality of the guy, the gigantic form in the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Mahar planets, his mouth is the Janus planets, and his forehead is the Tapas planetary system. The foremost planetary system known as Bhakti is the head of him who has 1,000 heads.
Sahasra Sirsha Purusha. That's it. Satyam tu Sirshani, Sahasra Shirshna. That's where the picture at the end of it. Sahasra Purusha. These are different locations in the personality, na? The Janaloka, Maharloka, Tapaloka, Brahmaloka, they're all described very
She's technically है उसका मतलब दोस्त कह रहे हैं ये महाकाल है ये हिप्स है वो technically थोड़ी वो 100
Technically, matlab, it's a Virat Rupa is a imaginary form told for the meditation purpose, right? So वो मतलब the universal form में गर्भोदय Vishnu reciting that half of that is filling up reciting. But this is a way to induce a materialistic person to see the greatness of the Lord and to see the form of the Lord. Because you can't see the form of the Lord as Paramatma or Bhagwan. So nothing in this world is impersonal. Even the universe is a form, right? So that's why it's not that it is. It can be seen in that way that the Lord has these are the feet of the Lord. जैसे विराट रूप दिखा है तो अर्जुन ने देखा ना मुंह देखा अनंत unlimited mouth he saw unlimited hands he saw. So actually he saw that, but that is just a representation to induce a person to get an idea of how to see the personality of God and in the entire universal creation. It is not a permanent representation, right? It is not a permanent feature of the Lord. One can see that it's just a way by which the materialistic person can be induced to see the greatness of the Lord through his energy, through his potency, through his creation. It is not existing as we have like the forms like Narayan forms, Vishnumurti form. They are not like.
1000 heads नहीं है 1000 heads कैसे हो सकते हैं वो लोग हो सकते हैं वो हेड है कि नहीं है बस वो असाइन कुछ वो उसको कह रहे हैं कि हम लोग 1000 हेड की तरह दिखते हैं वो 1000 हेड्स हैं वो मेरा क्वेश्चन वो है 1000 हेड्स वो कह रहे हैं कि वो जो ब्रह्म लोक इज लाइक 1000 हेड्स वो कहने का मतलब है
Just like he said that everywhere are my hands and legs. So one has to understand in the context that Lord being the super soul in everyone's heart. So Lord is, the 30th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Kshetragya, and I am the super soul in everyone's heart. So everyone's senses are part of Lord's total senses. This will come here also. And actually when the Lord sees, everyone can see. So everyone's eyes in that sense is Lord's eyes. Because they will not function without the function of the super soul. So similarly, whether Sahasra Shirsha, 1000 heads are there, that as I told, this is it's an imaginary form of the Lord, created for the induction of the person to understand that it is how it is a person. Not existing as a form itself, but it is shown still to show that how universe is personal. Also existing in the personality of the Lord, but not otherwise existing for any other purpose. It's just for purifying the mind of the conditioned living entity and to show that this is not its own creation. This does not come from Big Bang. This is a personality. So more clarification can be sought from Radhika Vallabh, who is coming next week. Ask him. So then now in 29 to 37, he will tell Lord subtle sense organs lead to Tanmatra, sense object in universal form, plus elements, earth, water, air, fire, and ether. And Lord's gross organ location, gross sense organ, that will lead to subtle sense organ in universal form, and this will lead to sense devatas. So this is how now from 29 to 37 that will be discussed, that all the elements and all the sense object and all the sense organ, what we have, what devatas we have, they're all coming from the Supreme Lord. So two people can refer. One is Bhakti Maharaj, not to really get into that. He will say the creation described in this chapter, third canto, there are all different kinds of creation. They also have a different purpose. So it's very technical and very simple also. But one has to hear carefully and make notes. Honestly speaking, I don't fully understand, except for what Prabhupada said, that give up the desire to be enjoy controller and driving. That's the ultimate purpose. Technically, it is not so well understood. I have not researched so well also that part. How this there is Adi, Adhyatma, then Adi Bhuta, and Adi Deva. Like the three kinds of messages, no? What is that? Adi Atmic creation, Adi Bhautik creation, Adi Deva creation. So these three things are running parallelly in all the universal creation. So Adhyatma is there, Adi Bhautik is there, Adi Devik is there. Adi Devik includes the Devatas. And then Adhyatma and Adi Bhuta, they represent sometimes sense objects, sense organs. All that combination keeps on working. And whenever it comes, not fully clear. Whatever is the contextual that time, I try to understand it. But the goal is that it is all created by the Lord. It has not come from any other arrangement. That's the main purpose. And that's why it should be used in Krishna service. Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir. So now this will describe that subtle sense organ will lead to tanmatra, the sense object. What's it called? Rasa Rupa. Shabda Sparsha Rasa Rupa Gandha. In the universal form, and elements will become. And the location of the sense organ, subtle sense organs will come, and then sense devatas will come.
Probably, someone may say that he is worshipping this nature, and this nature is going to describe as the different limbs of Virat. Different limbs of
Virat Rupa.
But he is not saying Virat room connected to this nature because he doesn't know about it. So will that be considered as a part of this?
No, somebody worship nature.
Many people worship nature, no? So will that be considered a part of?
No, will not be considered part of that. Because they are not considering nature as part of Krishna. No? Prabhupada said nature means whose nature? That's very simple, common sense understanding. He will say we call it mother nature. But mother cannot produce without the help of father. Father is the person who gives the seed. Krishna says, Aham bija prada pita. Maya adyakshin prakriti. Nature cannot function automatically. Nature has to be guided by the father. So Prabhupada has a lot of conversation on that. Nature is like a machine, but there has to be operator. Nature is like mother, somebody has to give the seed to produce. So somebody is only worshipping the nature, then they are actually falling in the category of Shaktas. They worship Shakti. So there are the Panchopasana, where they worship like Ganapatyas who worship Ganesha, Sauryas who worship Suryadev, then Shaktas, then Shaivite, then Vaishnava. So there are 5 levels of worship. And these 5 levels of worship, they represent five levels of consciousness of the worshipper. What is his conception of the Supreme? What is the conception of the Supreme? So now the Virat Rupa is for very gross. They consider gross material thing to be worshipable as part of the Lord. But that is purified because they take it as part of the Lord. They're not worshipping them as the Lord. Then it becomes wrong. But it's part of the Lord. But when they further do, then they become Ganapatyas, then they become Shaktas, then they become Shaivites, and they become Vaishnavas. Vaishnava is a very elevated form. In Vaishnavas, people worship Lord Narayan. And then, then they'll worship Lakshmi Narayan, Sita Ram. That's higher status. Then worshipping Narayan, and then to worship Narayan with the Shakti also. And then they will worship Krishna and Dwarka. Then only they will, not then only, but I'm saying, then the highest form of worship is Krishna and Vrindavan in the Parakaras. So that Maharaj can say detail. But these are different levels of consciousness of approaching the same Supreme Absolute. So according to their level of consciousness, they will worship. The best thing why Prabhupada repeats again and again in this world, nowadays people are not going through any gradual elevation process. Everyone is stuck up wherever they are. So the best thing for all of them is that wherever they are, whichever vehicle they are moving, bike or car or Belgadi, it's like a helicopter which comes and picks up and takes it up. That is Mahaprabhu's process. It's a Harinam Sankirtan process. Wherever you are, whatever you are, if you take to it, then you can transcend everything else. And that is Mahaprabhu's Mahavadanyata, that he has not waited for the gradual elevation of the conditioned souls. He has introduced the chanting of the holy name to one and all. And he's created a Sukriti for them that although they are not qualified, but just because they agree to take it up, that will make them qualified. And Prabhupada was asked, what is our qualification? We got this highest philosophy in culture. What did Prabhupada say? You are not qualified. I made you qualified. So because he's making us qualified and then giving us that privilege, that is Mahavadana. That is not being done by any other incarnation. All of the incarnation, they give things to only those who are qualified. But Mahaprabhu creates the qualification and then gives. So in this day and age, wherever the person is there, the best we can do is to increase his Bhakti Unmukh Sukriti by giving him something connected to Krishna. So he says, oh, he's a nature lover, then you send him to GV, you said you can do bird watching. And you can see the flora and the fauna. You can record what all trees are there, and then you will do that. So he will do that and he will say some Hare Krishna, he will come for some Aarti, something he will do. So some Sukriti will increase. So that is what we can do, that we increase Bhakti Unmukh Sukriti. Otherwise, if we wait for the gradual process means millions of lifetimes. Gradual process is not like 1 year karma, 2nd year jnana, 3rd year Ashtanga Yoga, 4th year bhakti. It's not like that. It's just Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mahaprabhu. Every process is several lifetimes. So that's the shortcut. And that is what works and will work in this day and age. Nothing else will work. Everything else will fail. Because that's the Jeva Dharma, that's the nature of the soul. And anybody who practices a little bit by the grace of the Vaishnavas, then they can realize it also. And they continue on the path, they'll become perfect. They will get deviated by their own whimsical choice and up to them. But still, it will not be a loss because it will remain with them. So, yeah, nature lovers, technically, they cannot be called as the followers of Virat Rupa. They're not seeing the connection with the Lord. In the Virat Rupa, connection with the Lord is very clearly seen. So his thighs, his knees, his abdomen, his chest, his head, like that. So the personality is being seen. But the personality is great, so sun and moon are his two eyes. A great person. We have normal eyes. Sun and moon are the eyes. Like
Only this kind of description is already given in Bhagavad Gita also.
yeah.
Like that too. So why again this has been described in Bhagavatam also?
No, not only described here, it described several places. At least 4 to 5 places this description. Virat Rupa form.
But really, being a devotee like doesn't give us so much,
Yeah, it may not give, but what happens that we have not yet given the conception of proprietorship, controllership, enjoyership technically. And that is a prerequisite for practicing pure devotion service. One has to be fixed up in the conception of relation with the Lord, which is not yet happening because we still have a wrong conception of our identity. So hearing about it again and again gives us the feeling that I'm not controller, I'm not easy. This is often easier said than realized. No? It's not easy to realize. Anything like we are managing something happens in that, and immediately it doesn't come to your mind that, okay, I'm just a representative. Immediately it comes, why did it happen like that? So the mental attachments to objects, people, our ideas, these are the anarthas which get cleansed away if we understand the concept of Virat Rupa properly. But as Prabhupada also writes, that is not attractive to devotees. But Parikshit Maharaj is still inquiring. So, and he's at the verge of death. He's not saying just tell me about Raslila. That will come in 10th canto. So it has a purifying effect because it is coming from Sukadeva Goswami. He's describing it, Parikshit Maharaj is hearing it. And what are the essential sense? We know that essence is to bring us to the level of pure devotion, that is eventually. So it's repeated, it's not just one place, multiple places. Second canto now it's coming, third canto again it will come, fourth canto again it will come, fifth canto the creation thing is there. Then it will be less, not so. But second, third, fifth, all three there. Virat Rupa form. And as I was telling Bhakti Maharaj described that all three are different. They may look same, but they are different. And their goals are different. So he gives a more detailed information. You can hear the lecture to get more clarity. Okay, now we'll go a little faster because we want to start the next chapter also today. Yes. What else is good?
His arms are the demigods carried by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears. People sound with his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the two Ashwini Kumaras, and material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire.
This is the description of the universal form there. I'm not going to that. Read it. The description of the gigantic form the personality of Godhead made in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is further explained here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what it says. The description of 11.3 runs as follows. Oh Vishnu, I see you all devouring all people in your blazing mouth, covering all the universe. In that way, Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study for the student of the Bhagavad Gita. Both of them are the science of Krishna, the absolute truth, and so they are interdependent. So why it's saying the conception of the Virat Purusha, the gigantic form of the Supreme Lord, is said to include all the dominating demigod as well as all the dominated living beings. We are Adi Bhuta, they are Adi Deva. Even the minutest part of a living entity is controlled by the empowered agency of the Lord. So then, since the demigods are included in the gigantic form of the Lord, worship of the Lord, whether in his gigantic mental conception or in his eternal transcendental form as Lord Shri Krishna, also appeases the demigod and all the other parts and parcels, such as watering the root of a tree, distribute energy to all the trees' other parts. Consequently, for materialists also, worship of the universal judging for the Lord leads one to the right path. One need not risk being misled by approaching many demigods for fulfillment of different desire. Today वो चली ना गोड़ा केशव भक्त को कहीं और जाने नहीं चाहिए अनन्य भक्ति अन्य कोई और नहीं. There's a lot of discussion. Ganesh. Okay, next.
The sphere of outer space constitutes his eye pits and the eyeballs with the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movement of his eyebrows, the Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his tongue.
So here, Prabhupada is right. Here is right. To common sense, the description of these words appear to be somewhat contradictory because sometimes the sun has been described as the eyeball and sometimes as the outer space sphere. Two things are described. You saw that here on says. The sphere of outer space constitutes eye pits and eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. So eye pit and eyeball.
What is the sphere of outer space?
Sphere of outer space, the vacant space which is there. No? Like there are planets, but around planet, like what you see the space, no? That outer space. That is the eye pit.
It is already mentioned that this person is his feet, this person is his arms, eyes.
But still there's space no, in between.
Uh,
Still. Like the body is standing, for example.
Inside the universal aid, there is some space.
The space, that is space. To common sense, the description of these words appear to be somewhat contradictory because sometimes the scene has been described as the eyeball, sometimes the outer space sphere. But there's no room for common sense in the injunctions of the Shastras. We must accept the description of the Shastras and concentrate more on the form of the Virat Rupa than on the common sense. Common sense is always imperfect, whereas the description in the Shastra is always perfect and complete. If there's any incongruity, it is due to our imperfection and not the Shastras. This is the method of approaching Vedic wisdom. So, we know, Jiva Goswami says that the very word Supreme Lord means he is inconceivable. To accept the Supreme Lord means to accept the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Lord. Without inconceivable potency, the Lord is not the Supreme Lord. So inconceivable means sometimes we say inconceivable, but still we think we have a conception. Still we think we understand it. Actually, inconceivable means inconceivable. That means you can't conceive of it. Beyond the range of conception. But sometimes inconceivable, but let us try to logically figure it. Inconceivable, just read and relish. That's right there. Okay, next.
They say that the Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord, and his laws of feet are Yama, Lord of the Upanishads, the singer. The art of perfection is his set of feet, and the most alluding illusory material energy is his mind. This great ocean of material creation is but the acting of his glance over us.
Yeah. So material creation is the result of Lord's casting a glance over the material energy, which is described herein as the most alluring illusory energy. So,
Prabhuji, in the previous verse, I have a question. As it is mentioned that the eyeballs are the sun, and the Prabhupada many times described that in a universe there is only one sun. But before this, we have also mentioned that Sahasra Sirsa.
many heads, many sons.
So there must be many eyes also.
Many luminaries are there, it's true. Many luminaries are there, it says that. Many illuminating objects are there. At the same time, it says sun. That's why Prabhupada said that. He wrote this. He said that sometimes it may appear somewhat contradictory because same thing, it may be extended that it appears contradictory. But if there's any incongruity, it is due to our imperfection, not the Shastras. So we accept it. That's why I told that it is an inconceivable thing. It is not understandable by our intelligence. And we have to accept that in our humility that it's not possible to understand. It's only possible to understand that we cannot understand this fully. No matter, even if you do a PhD thesis on it, because it's inconceivable. It's by nature inconceivable, and inconceivable means that it cannot be perfectly conceived. Even the soul is inconceivable by nature. Krishna says some look at it as amazing, some hear of it as amazing, and some even after hearing and reading, they can't understand it all because it is Ajit. So that's why I'll not go into that detail because even I don't know that.
Only one sentence, consequently for materialist also worship of the universal, the ending form of the Lord leads one to right path.
Right.
So materialist worship, genetic universal path, then they come to right.
Because they are accepting the personality of the Lord, although in a gross material way. So acceptance of the personality of Godhead is a very, good beginning of their spiritual journey. And that is why even the demigod worshippers are considered higher in one sense than those who worship the impersonal form, because they're accepting the form. So that conception of form is there, which can further evolve in the form of the Supreme Lord. But then those who are not attracted to the form, then they are considered even more degraded. In the Ishopanishad, you'll find that verse, which says that, what is that? I think it's series of verses. So there it compares that, those who believe in the impersonal format and those who worship in the demigod. Both are not at the right level. But still demigod are at the right level because they have acceptance of the personality. Right? So that is considered very high. So that's why when they accept the personality of the Lord, although in a material way, then they become elevated with that. They start respecting everything. They start, understanding that everything belongs to God and let us not do thing. They lose that. They overcome the sense of duality between this is good, this is bad, this is the creation of the Lord, this is not the creation of the Lord. That duality they can overcome.
There are some people follow some concocted way of something matches with this Shastric references. And they get help also. They come out of duality, they by mind become peaceful.
They can do
This,
it.
that.
They can
So
do
because of that,
See,
somewhere there.
right now, it's very difficult to find any true follower of any of these panthas. It's almost an impossibility to find a Karamkandi Brahmana or a Jnani or a Yogi at this point of time. Only thing you can find is sense gratifier under different names. That's all. Very difficult to find. Even the people who may be reading scripture, they don't have an understanding where they want to go. They're just reading it. They're not true Jnanis. They're living in the cities. Sometimes they work as doctors. Sometimes they work as social servant. Sometimes they take the, that morcha against political parties. It's wearing saffron, calling themselves Jnanis. This is not the job of a Jnani. Jnani is very focused. He's just reading the scripture, following the yoga process for attaining the Supreme. So this is very difficult to find. Karmakanda means yajna. They will do everything through yajna only. Where are the people doing yajna? Some Gayatri Parivar, they do yajna, but it's all imitation thing. No substance to that. And similarly, yoga. So if you see the prerequisite for all of them, practically you'll not find anyone doing any one of these. But those days, people were into these categories. To find somebody who is this. That's why the gradual process was given. But the whole thing, why Narad Muni chastised Vyasadeva was that this is not valid now anymore. In the age of Kali Yuga, people look for sense gratification. And they will find only those sections of Shastra which will say, dekho, idhar bola hai. We can eat meat. And that's why after Vyasadeva, only Buddha came. Buddha came. How? Because people misinterpreted the Shastras. जैसे शास्त्र में लिखा है ना ये बलि दे सकते हैं बलि दे सकते हैं क्या प्रोसेस है क्या पर्पस है समझना पड़ेगा ना they misinterpret the scripture so Lord has to come as Buddha discard the Vedic literature. Can you imagine what do you think it was? The same literature what is written in Vyasadeva, he came as Buddha to discard them after a few thousand years. So that's why I told that in this age the only process that will work is Hare Nama and Kirtan. That's the only process which will work. Other processes are not there. Still, that information is given because it's a part of the package. But in today's world, to find out somebody is worshipping Virat Rupa or somebody who's a Jnani or somebody who's a yogi, it's almost impossible. Nobody has any information on that. These are very Shastric technical details. It requires a guru for each of these processes also. Now, Iyengar Yoga, they're just teaching yoga for good health. That's all. They're not teaching any yoga. Ramdev Baba is teaching yoga to make money. Then who is talking of transcendence? Who is talking of meditation, Paramatma and everything? Nothing. It has become just a bodily exercise to keep you fit and get rid of your appendicitis and back pain and spondylitis and all that. That's how they advertise, which is not at all the purpose. So AC on कर लो, गर्मी लग जाएगा इधर. हाँ, नीचे से चालू करो पहले रिमोट. हाँ,
सर्दी है रूम टेम्परेचर.
हाँ 25. So conditioned souls who are allowed by such materialism should know that the material temporary creation is simply an imitation of the reality. And those who are captivated to such alluring glances of the Lord are put under the direction of the controller of sinners called Yamaraj. Lord's glance is called Shambhu. So Lord glances on the material nature. The glance becomes Shiv Tattva, Shambhu. And that Shambhu is the sum total of all the conditioned living entities. So this is how Garbhadhan is done. Today was morning. So the Lord does metal analysis Garbhadhan by taking the living entities from there and Sa Ikshita, just by glance, impregnates the metal energy with all the living entities. And then they're given different bodies. The Lord smiles affectionately, displaying a teeth. The intelligent person who can grasp this truth about the Lord becomes a soul fully surrendered unto him. Okay, next one.
Modesty is the version of his name. Anything is his chin. Religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his pride. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world with his genitals, and the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones.
Virat Purusha. Sometimes people wonder why the Supreme is not Shakti. Shaktiman, that is how Shastra describe it. They describe male. So, Vaibhav is right. The Supreme Lord is not impersonal as in misconceived by less intelligent thinker. Rather, the Supreme Person is confirmed in all authentic lyrics. But his personality is different than what we can conceive. So then Brahmaji acted genital, Mitra Varuna has two testicles. So Virat Rupa is exhibited by Lord Krishna to Arjuna is a challenge to unbelievers. Next.
19th. The rivers are the vein of the divine body. The trees are the air of his body. And the omnipotent air is his breath. The passing airs are his movements. In his activity are the reaction, the three modes of nature.
So this helps us actually, even for devotees, it helps us to become conscious of Krishna and all the surroundings. The beginning concept. Person of God is not a dead stone, nor is he inactive as is poorly thought by some schools. He moves with the progress of time. All that is being described. The air on which the tangible Virat Purusha. So, even by studying the rivers, trees, air, and passing edges, one can conceive of the person of God without being misled by the formless conception of the Lord. That is the main purpose. Next.
Best among the Kurus, the clouds which carry water at the ears on his head, the terminations of days or nights are his dress, and the supreme cause of material creation is his intelligence. His mind is the moon, the reservoir of all changes.
This Virat Purusha. Clouds. I mean, everything what we see in nature, we can refer it to indicate a part of Lord's personal feature. That's how it reminds us of the personality of the Lord in the Virat. Okay, next.
The principle of matter, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord, as asserted by the experts, and Rudradev is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephant are his names, and wild animals, and all quadrupeds are sitting in the belt zone of the Lord.
Everything, whatever you see, animals and clouds and oceans and rivers, trees, that's what we see. But we see them as just as nature, we don't get the benefit. But we see them as part of the personality of Virat Rupa, then we see as, we come close to the personality of God.
Where
36.
varieties of birds are indications on his masterful artistic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. Celestial species of human beings, like the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels, all represent his musical rhythm. And the demonic soldiers are the representations of his wonderful prowess.
So, not only the objects, but even the skills and the artistry thing, they are connected to the Lord. Because it's The aesthetic sense of the Lord is manifested in the artistic, colorful creation of varieties of birds like the peacocks, parrot, and cuckoos. And the celestial species, Gandharvas and Vidyadharas, can sing wonderfully and can entice you in the mind of the heavenly realm. Their musical rhythm represents the musical sense of the Lord. How can then he be impersonal? His musical taste, artistic sense, and standard intelligence, which never failable, are different signs of his supreme personality. Human society is a residential quarters for the Lord. This means that the human being is meant for God realization and association with God. This life is a chance for the conditioned soul to regain its eternal God consciousness, and thus mission of yes. Next 37.
The Virat Purusha's face is the Brahmanas, his arms are the Kshatriyas, his thighs are the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are under the protection of his feet. All the worshipable demigods are also overtaken by him, and it is the duty of everyone to perform sacrifices to visible goods to appease the Lord.
So earlier the planetary systems were described as part of the form of the Lord, and now the four social orders are described as part of the form of the Lord. Where do they stay? So all what is seen and heard in the creation, that is all mapped onto the universal form, Virat Rupa form of the Lord, so that we can connect to that and remember the Lord in a gross material way. Yes. Monotheism is practically suggested here. Offering sacrifices to many demigods under different names is mentioned in the Vedic literature, but the suggestion made in this verse is that all those varieties of demigods are included in the form of the Supreme Personality Godhead. They are only the part and parcel of the original whole. Then it talks about the whole. And it says, generally the sacrifice is offered with clarified butter and grains, but with the progress of time, human society has developed varieties of goods by transforming matters supplied by God's material nature. Human society, therefore, must learn to offer sacrifice not only with clarified butter, but also with other manufactured goods in the propagation of the Lord's glory. And that will bring about perfection in human society. And that is why we see that all our acharyas use the Yukta Vairagya principle. And whether it is planes or dictaphones or whatever kind of technology or thing needed, they use it in the service of the. So intelligent class can give direction for such sacrifice, the administrative class can give all facility, Vaishya class can produce goods, Shudra can offer manual labor. And thus, by the cooperation of all classes of human beings, the sacrifice recommended in the age, namely the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord, will be executed for the common welfare of all the people of the world. Yes. Now he says, I have thus explained to you the gross material layer, gigantic conception of the personality of God, and one seriously desires liberation, concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord, because there is nothing more than this in the material world. So in the commentary, he says, Vishwanath Thakur, that this form of the Lord, which has various limbs, Sannivesha, has been described by me to you. The mind is concentrated by the yogis. Other than this, there is nothing else. The meaning is, wherever the mind wanders, because of its fickle nature, it should consider using the intelligence and think, oh, this is so and so limb of the Lord. All the object of which the mind thinks, thus are limbs of the Lord. So this is a way of purifying the mind, that whatever mind thinks, oh, this is connected to the Lord. This is a limb of the Lord. This leads to all thoughts becoming thoughts of the Lord, and then hatred and envy and other bad qualities do not appear in the mind, because one meditates on these sentiments present in humans and Gandharvas as limbs of the Lord. Like somebody says, oh, he's a Shudra. But he's a Shudra, but he's the feet of the Lord. He's situated at the feet of the Lord. He's a Kshatriya. So that's hatred among different classes of people, or hatred among different kinds of, objects. That is all overcome, because they're all seen in connection with the Supreme Lord. We don't say, my hand is better than my leg. Well, hand may do one kind of function, but you can't walk on hand. No one limb can do the function of another limb. It can be done in the spiritual body, but not here. So every limb has its value. And we do different things differently. In the winter season also, we don't always wear gloves, but we always wear a sweater. So head doesn't glove nahi pehna. There is, because different things have to be dealt differently. There's no envy, there's a cooperation among them. There's a unity among them. Global, right, same thing. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is valuably explained that the material nature is only an order-carrying agent of His. She is one of the different potencies of the Lord, and she acts under His guidance only. Maya Adhyakshanu Prakriti Suyate Sa Charachara. And then it says, he simply casts a glance over the material principle, and then the agitation begins, and all other manifestations come. Less intelligent people with a poor fund of knowledge cannot accommodate the thought of this inconceivable potency of the Lord, by which He appears just like a human being. Avajananti mam muda manushan ashita param bhava ajananto mama bhuta. So the transcendental form of the Lord is beyond the jurisdiction of such materialistic activities, and it is very difficult to conceive that the Lord can be simultaneously localized and all pervasive, because the materialistic philosophers and scientists think of everything in terms of their own experience. Because they are unable to accept the personal feature of the Supreme Lord, the Lord is kind enough to demonstrate the Virat feature of His transcendental form. And here in Srila Sukadeva Goswami has vividly described this form of the Lord. He concludes that there is nothing beyond the gigantic feature of the Lord. The mind of the materialistic men are flickering and constantly changing from one aspect to another. Therefore, one is advised to think of the Lord by thinking of any part of the gigantic body, and by one's intelligence only. One can think of Him in any manifestation of the material world: the forest, the hill, the ocean, man, animal, demigod, bird, beast, anything else. Each and every item of the material manifestation entails a part of the body of the gigantic form, and thus the flickering mind can be fixed in the Lord only and nothing else. This process of concentrating on the different bodily parts of the Lord will gradually diminish the demonic challenge of godlessness and bring about gradual development of devotion service of the Lord. Everything being a part and parcel of the complete whole, the neophyte student will gradually realize the hymns of Vishopanishad, which state that the Supreme Lord is everywhere, and thus he will learn the art of not committing any offense to the body of the Lord. Like now, people are excavating earth, they are doing mining and all. But if they realize that Bhumi is the consort of the Lord, then they will not do that. Or Bhumi is a part of the body of the Lord. We cannot encroach and take a knife and cut open the part of others' bodies. So by seeing everything connection with the Lord, then person becomes sober. We cannot pollute the rivers. Now we pollute the rivers. But can you put a syringe and put some dirty thing into the blood vessels of someone? Right? But here he said that rivers are the veins of the Lord. So when we are putting dirty water in Yamuna and sewage water in Yamuna, then that conception is this: learn to see everything connection with the Lord. That will help them to respect everything. This sense of God-mindedness will diminish one's pride in challenging the existence of God. Thus, one can learn to show respect to everything, for all things are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Last verse. Yes.
One should concentrate his mind upon Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone distribute Himself in so many manifestations. Just as an ordinary person creates thousands of manifestations in dream, one must concentrate the mind on Him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation.
So he says yogi points with the impression of senses in his mind from many births in the past, which are temporary, like a single dream experience of all sort of man and enjoyment, will worship the Lord and also know bliss, eternal in time and space, nothing else. So he says, accompanying this meditation of the Lord, there will appear certain results such as enjoyment and power. Should the yogi enjoy this? If he enjoys, then that indicates a lax yoga. Then he quotes that. If he does not enjoy those things, it is still difficult to reject those enjoyments which arise. By discrimination alone, all become easy. The method of discrimination is then shown. That when a yogi does it, when a yogi does it, he does this kind of meditation, the Virat Rupa, then also a lot of enjoyment and power will come. He will attain siddhis. So then he's asking, should he enjoy them? So no, he should not enjoy them. He will again get entangled. So how we should think, how we should discriminate is being told here. What is the use of experiencing those things again? They have no permanence. They are just like creation of various people, soldier, friend, experienced by jiva energies. Thus, he should worship the Lord only. He does not become attached to other things, to the happiness of the material world, because it is limited in time span without a notion of this. And then Prabhupada says, in this world, the process of devotional service is indicated by the great Goswami, Srila Sukadeva. And he says that instead of diverting our attention to several branches of self-realization, we should concentrate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the supreme object of realization, worship, and devotion. Self-realization is, as it were, offering a fight for eternal life against the material struggle for existence, and therefore, by the illusory grace of the external energy, the yogi or the devotee is faced with many allurements which can entangle a great fighter again in the bondage of material existence. Practicing Krishna consciousness is like waging a war against material energy, like Maya. So there are many techniques which the enemy can employ in fighting is one, but allurement is another one. Right? Like many times in the previous time, there used to be Nagakanyas. Nagakanyas? Vishakanyas. Really, they were there. So right, sometimes they'll fight in the war field. They'll fight one-on-one, but other times they will just send the Vishkanyas and they will just, kill the king. And then they will conquer over that. So similarly, sometimes there are fight, the mind senses there's a fight going on, but sometimes there are allurements also, which are also another kind of challenges. So he says, yogi can attain miraculous success in material achievements such as siddhi like animal lagama. And then one may achieve material benediction in the shape of wealth and women. But one is warned against such allurement because entanglement again in such illusory pleasure means degradation of the self and further imprisonment in the material world. By this warning, one should follow one's vigilant intelligence only. So then again, the Achinda Veda philosophy is being told, and it says that Virat Rupa is also the manifestation of Narayana or Vishnu, and going further on and on, one will eventually see that Krishna is the ultimate super soul of everything that we. So then one should directly worship Krishna. Long process. So he says that material creation is not different from him because it has come from Lord, but because it is the effect of external energy, Bahiranga Maya, and is aloof from the internal potency, the whole material creation different from him at the same time. And the example is given of dreaming man. A dreaming man creates many things in his dream and thus he himself becomes the entangled seer of the dream and is also affected by the consequences. The material creation also exactly like a dream-like creation of the Lord, but he, being the transcendental super soul, is neither entangled nor affected by the reaction of such a dream-like situation. He is always in his transcendental position, but essentially is everything and nothing is apart from him. As a part of him, one should therefore concentrate on him only without deviation. Otherwise, one is sure to be overcome by the potency of the material creation one after another. It is confirmed. Sarva Bhutani Gvanteya Prakriti Antimanaka Kalpashaya Punastani Kalpada Vishajana. This human life, however, is an opportunity to get out of the repetition of creation and annihilation. It is a mean whereby one may escape the Lord's external potency and enter into his internal potency. So basically, this whole manifestation like the Lord, Karana Driksha Vishnu is lying on Yoga Nidra. Right? So everything is happening in sleep. All the Vishnus are in Yoga Nidra. So there, for them, the manifestation of cosmic world, material universe, is like a dream-like creation. But because they are real, their dream is also realistic. For us, it becomes realistic. But just like the quality of a dream is that nothing is permanent. So similarly, in the creation, you don't find anything permanent. So one should understand that it is a dream-like situation created by the Lord, and one should meditate on the Lord, and that will help one come out of the dream-like situation. And then focus on the Supreme Lord. Yes.
Sometimes when we are engaging devotional service, we are rather than focusing on the Lord, we focus on the service, seva, and in that seva we get entered. And that seva means because we are not totally purified. I am not totally purified, so it happens that somewhere that lower nature come up because of service. We are engaged in the service. So how to understand that? Because it's thinking about Lord Seva is also thinking about Lord. Yes, in that term only we think about Lord. Although it is said meditating upon Lord. But we meditate on the services we want to do, but there is we don't serve in the mode of that goodness. So how to keep that? It's further our meditation on God. Just the result of devotional service will be attachment to the Lord rather than anarthas in it.
Actually, as far as service is concerned, it should have three components. One thing is any service, it should be offered by someone. It should be allotted or designated or told to us to do. So it should have a sanction, right? It should have a sanction for that. And second one is that while doing that service, one has to know that for whose pleasure am I doing that service? The result is not the the result of service is not the output what comes as a numerical output or as a like result, achievement, accomplishment. The actual result of service is the pleasure. So whose pleasure I am serving? Like we may be doing youth preaching, we may be doing temple management, we may be doing book distribution. So there one result is how many books were distributed, how many boys came for Utkarsha. But that is not the actual result. The result of service, whose pleasure I did it. So usually the one who gives service, that is the pleasure, but that we may also do it for pleasure of Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada, because that service is coming from them through someone. So we may think of their pleasure also. Second thing is that. Third thing is in what position, in what mood did I render service? What did I consider myself when I'm rendering service? I consider myself I'm a qualified person and this service is given to me, it's not worth me. This is my insult of giving this service to me. Or am I thinking that I'm grateful the service has come and I'm only a servant of the Lord and I will try to serve in this particular way. I will render this particular service because it's given to me and for the pleasure of this. So these three factors should be considered. Then rendering service within these three parameters is always purifying, is always elevating, is always bringing us closer to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, so many things becomes difficult. If we forget these three purposes, if we do something which is not told to us to do, or we don't know who told us to do that, then it's difficult. Why we are doing it then. And if we do it only for numerical result, then it's another challenge. And because we do it for pleasure, because Bhakti is the art of pleasing Hari Guru and Vaishnava. It's not about achieving, accomplishing. What we can achieve and accomplish, anything you do, you can always find there are some people who are doing better than that. Anything, anywhere, even in terms of preaching. Right? Like we are doing book distribution now. Jehovah's Witness, there is a group in Christianity. So they distribute 5.3 crore magazines every month. Christians. Not Christian, one group of Christians called Jehovah's Witness.
Jews.
Not Jews. Jehovah's Witness is one Christian group. And they have just 8.7 million followers, 87 lakh people distributing 5.3 crore magazines. The highest distributed spiritual magazine. They have the name they were telling us. The Watchtower. The Watchtower and another one is they distribute. So what we can compare, our PTG, like we are struggling, all our devotees also don't distribute. Every person has to go 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours every weekend. Otherwise, not a member of that group. Outcast. Outcast. That's a law. That's a membership of that group like that. If you are a Jehovah's Witness, you have to knock at the door of the people and tell that we are from Jehovah's Witness. We brought this magazine for you, and you connect to Jesus, you will be saved. That's it. So anything you see. If you see the hard work, then there are karmis who are working harder than us. Any field, even as devotees, any particular field you see, you'll always find there are people who are much better than us. Even if we say feeding thing, when we were seeing that video that Hyderabad, there's this Cavalry Temple Church. Right? So they have 5 sessions. And they have around around 25 to 30, 40,000 people in each session. They have auditorium, big auditorium with LED screen and all. And they give a sermon there. Almost like 1 lakh plus people come every Sunday. And we have one festival on Janmashtami and we are like so many meetings, so many fight. And we just consider it as a big achievement. 1 lakh people come every weekend, every Sunday. Everything run by volunteers, nothing paid. We have to pay 2 lakh rupees to security guards. So I'm saying everything can humble us. We just have to know it. Swaminarayan, when they celebrate the Govardhan Puja, they have thousands of items. They celebrate it is like a stadium kind of setup they do. You see that you will fall flat. Whole ISKCON put together it's just amazing. So there's nothing to be really depressed about, nothing to be really proud about, even in a material sense. From a spiritual sense, yesterday I was telling that everything anyway insignificant. If we are insignificant, whatever we do is insignificant. But even in that comparative insignificance, if we just see at the world around us, there's nothing to be proud of. So many people doing so many things. What is our pride? Our pride is that we have Mahaprabhu's mercy and Prabhupada's mercy. And that is not because of our any good quality or something. That is because of their grace. That is their of our. That develops humility. So there's not too much to tension to take about which service we do, how we do it. We just do it, authorized service for the pleasure of someone and with the mood of I'm a servant. That's all. If these three things are done, then your life is good. Everything will make you advance. These three things are not there and we are fighting over whether I should do backup or this or that. These are all dualities actually. And we often do get caught up into dualities. We don't take service at absolute level. We think service is the end. Service is end in one sense, but it is also a means to please Krishna. So which service will please Krishna, that somebody else has to decide and tell us. For us, what should we do? And we can discuss. We may have our desire, they may have their thing, and we can discuss like that. And I'm just looking for the second chapter. Just give me a minute. We are starting with the chapter 2 now. So we completed chapter 1. We still have around 20 minutes. So chapter 2 will start. Chapter 2 is entitled as the Lord in the Heart. Chapter 1 was entitled as the first step in God realization. Chapter 2 is the Lord in the Heart. So in the first verse, Sukadeva Goswami gives an example of for one who perfected life and meditating on the Virat. And 2 to 7, the futility of karma ganda is being explained, and the path of liberation is being extolled, glorified. And in 8 to 11, the description of the super soul is given, how it's like the size of 8 inches in height, like that. It gives and the beauty of super soul is being described. And 12 to 14, Paramatma meditation for the unattached yogi, because the Virat Rupa is for the attached yogi, that is being described. And 15 to 21, the practice and the process of living of an advanced yogi is being described. It's similar to, not similar, but it talks about that, merging of the element to their universal form, and also the, what do you call that rising of the chakra, that is being described. And then Krama Mukti is described in 10 verses, 22 to 33, Virat Rupa meditation. This happens, Krama Mukti happens for the meditation, the one who meditates on Virat Rupa. And this Mukti happened, advanced yogi. So he goes directly to the Supreme Lord. He can attain the Supreme destination. And here he will go through different planet. It is like a flight he takes, 15 to 21. The advanced yogi, take a flight and he can go to that, and Vaikuntha Loka. And this is like a local train which will go on every heavenly planet and then all the elements. So Krama Mukti is being described. And 33, 37, that most important thing, establishing sadhana bhakti as the best of all paths, that is being described. This is a breakup of the chapter. So let's begin today, and we will continue on day after tomorrow, then Friday, and if in case something remains, then maybe Saturday an hour or so. Okay, so this is the Lord in the Heart. Let's begin with that. Let's recite together. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Pura Dharanayat Mayone Nashta Pratyavaruddhitushta Yatha Amogatrishki Yatha Payat Pragavasaya.
Formerly, prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, our Brahma, meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus, he was able to repeat the creation as God's request.
So Brahmaji also, at the end of the day when he sleeps, he's into slumber and when he wakes up, then, he doesn't know what is to be done. He has forgotten the process of creation. So that also he meditated, but here is saying prior to the manifestation of the cosmos. So it appears like it is at the very beginning of the life of Brahma. Two beginnings are described in Bhagavatam and 10. One is the beginning of the day of Brahma. Then also partial devastation has happened. Brahmaji again comes back and then again he sees devastation happened. Again he meditated on the Lord and again he recreates. And the first time Brahmaji is born on the lotus flower and then he's wondering where is he, what is he, why is he? And then, he meditated on the Virat Rupa form and then again construct that. So in the second chapter, the spiritual body of the Lord, practice of dharana by the perfected yogi, the two paths of merging into the Lord for those who desire to give their body, dharana on visible material objects, which infer the presence of the Lord, and dharana on Bhagavan are described. Intermediate result of Virat Rupa meditation are here described. Gaining Pratyavaruddhya, his lost memory by satisfying the Supreme Lord, Brahma again created the universe as it was before the destruction. He had fixed intelligence. So here Prabhupada says, the example cited is one of forgetfulness. Brahmaji is the incarnation of one of the mundane attribute of the Lord. Being the incarnation of the passion mode of nature, he is empowered by the Lord to generate the beautiful material manifestation. Yet, due to his being one of the numerous living entities, he is apt to forget the art of his creative energy. This forgetfulness of the living entity, beginning from Brahma to an insignificant art, is a tendency which can be counteracted by meditation of the Virat Rupa. This chance is available in the human form life, and human being follows the instructions of Bhagavatam and begins to meditate upon the Virat Rupa, then revival of his pure consciousness and counteraction of the tendency to forget his eternal relationship with the Lord can follow simultaneously. Revival of his pure consciousness and counteraction of the tendency to forget. As soon as the forgetfulness is removed, the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi mentioned here is achieved. This ascertained knowledge of the living being leads to loving service to the Lord, which the living being requires. You see here, he was asking a question whether he has heads or not. He said, the kingdom of God is unlimited, therefore the number of assisting hands of the Lord is also unlimited. Bhagavad Gita asserts that, 13.14, that the Lord has his hands, legs, eyes, and mouth in every nook and corner of his creation. So there are multiple ways. Just like we say that Lord is localized and Lord is all pervading. So yes, Lord is all pervading in his Brahman feature. Localized is his Paramatma feature. And Bhagavan feature is there in the spiritual world. So depending on that, when Sahasra Purusha, it can be applied to the all-pervading form in the form of other living entities. And Virat Rupa form, then it is the universal form of the Hiranyagarbha, the whole universe, where sun is the only eye here. So like that, the different references are given to the different kind of form. The conditioned soul, even in the position of a Brahma, forget this by the influence of illusory material energy generated out of false egoism. One can counteract such false egoism by invoking God consciousness. Liberation means getting out of the slumber of forgetfulness and becoming situated in the real loving service of the Lord.
One more question.
Yeah.
Here it is mentioned that Lord Brahma meditated on the manifestation, on the Virat Rupa form of the Lord. So before the creation of the cosmos, how can Lord Brahma meditate on something which is not even existed? How can I meditate on something which I've never seen?
No, actually, when Lord said to Brahma Tapa, that was the instruction given from within that unembodied voice. So Lord only directed Brahma because the first disciple, no? Nothing else. So Tene Brahma Hriday Adi Kavai. So Tene Brahma, the Brahma is not Brahma. Brahma means that knowledge. Brahma means the realized knowledge is given, where Hridaya, to whom Adi Kavai. Adi Kavai is Brahma. Tene Brahma, Hridaya Adi Kavai. So when Krishna plays the flute and the flute is received by Brahma from his ears, and then everything is revealed from within. It is not that this meditation is a product of seeing and doing. Not like that. It's a manifestation within the heart. That knowledge of how to meditate is revealed, and then Brahmaji is following it. Spiritual wisdom is like that. It is not Aroha Pantha. It is not ascending knowledge. It is Avaroha Pantha. Like now, all of us aspire that we will go back to God and we will see Krishna. We have not seen him, I mean, in this conditioned state. But we have faith in the word of scripture. We have faith in the word of sadhus. That's why we are following the path on the basis of that faith. So, like that, Brahmaji doesn't have to see and meditate. He meditated and then manifested that actually. Brahmaji first saw in meditation, then manifested. It happens now also. For example, you like this temple, for example, it came up. So first it came up in the mind of the architect. And then it came on paper. And then it got modified. And then it manifested here as it is, 1 inch by inch. And nowadays through 3D modeling, one can actually go inside also and see how when it turns like this, you will see the roof. We saw that 3D we had created in the lockdown time. 3D virtual thing. So there, like you go move around and you will see behind Prabhupada. And you will move around and you can go inside the altar, see the Lord close everything. So similarly, Brahmaji first saw in the heart, in the meditation, how the creation has to be done. It says here, actually, it says here. Gaining Prati Aviruddha, his lost memory by satisfying the Lord Brahma again created the universe as it was before the destruction. He had fixed intelligence. I will create it by the inspiration of the Lord. So first inspiration, because it says that everything is created twice. First it is created in the mind, and then it is created on the actual gross element. So first creation is the mental creation. Second is gross. So similarly, Brahmaji also by tapa he could see either rasatal, either talatal, either living entity, itna species, itna sab kuch aayega. Then he further gave them the external body. So liberation means getting out of the slumber of forgetfulness and becoming situated in the real loving service of the Lord, as exemplified in the case of Brahma. The service of Brahma is a sample of service in liberation, distinguished by the so-called altruistic services full of mistakes and forgetfulness. Prabhupada writes that bold statement. Liberation is never inaction, but service without human mistake. मुक्त हो जाएंगे, लीन हो जाएंगे, फिर कुछ करने को नहीं रहेगा. No. In the liberated stage, we do things without human mistakes. We do things without any personal motivation. We do things only for the pleasure of Krishna. That is actual liberation. It's an active state, free from selfish motivations, ulterior motivations. That is active state. Okay, read it. The path of Karma Kanda is now condemned in the next 6 verses.
The way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the happiness. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places.
Yeah. This is the presentation of Vedic sound. Karma Kanda process is being described here. So they talk about heavenly planets. That is the main focus. Karma Kanda talks about bhakti, superior enjoyment. Jnana Kanda talks about mukti. And yoga talks about siddhis. So they talk about heavenly kingdom, heavenly pleasure, going to Nandan Kanan gardens and strolling with the apsaras, eating very fine food, seeing very nice dance in the court of Indra. So what people want to do here, they can do unlimitedly, unrestrictedly there. Because that is the nature of that. That is the law there. Anybody can enjoy like that. So, but then here, such pleasure are compared to dreams of such heavenly pleasure all, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. What should the dying person do? In order to this, some sages want to say, do karma along with sacrifice for going to Swarga. This is approved by the Vedas. This verse answers them. There's a path of the Vedas made up of sound in which the intelligence of the sadhaka become engaged in names such as Swarga. He thinks I will attain happiness in Swarga, but it is useless. Aparthe. With a desire for happiness, the person in dream wandering around does not enjoy objects. Thus, he attains those planets. It does not get excellent happiness since it is perishable. Some people, everybody advises to the best of the capacity. No? Sometimes somebody becomes sick. बोले हाँ बीमार हो गए। अरे ये बीमारी मेरे चाचा के ताऊ के फूफा के बेटे को हुआ था और वो उस डॉक्टर के पास गए थे उसने ये किया था और हो गया ठीक। दूसरा कोई आएगा इसके लिए तो एलोपैथी चलेगा इसके लिए एक ही बीमारी के लिए 4 लोग 4 अलग अलग पैथी बता देंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू देयर वे ऑफ थिंकिंग सिमिलरली हियर सम सेजेस से कर्म योगा करो हेवन जाओ 7 दिन है ट्राई करो सो दैट्स व्हाई सुखदेव गोस्वामी इज again coming back and saying this is like a dream-like situation. The conditioned soul is always engaged in laying out plans for happiness within the material world, even up to the end of the universal limit. He is not even satisfied with available amenities on this planet Earth, where he has exploited the resources of nature to the best of his ability. Now he wants to go to moon planet. Prabhupada is writing in those days because moon thing was going on. 1969 men landed on moon as per their calculation. This is written before that. But Prabhupada was very excited about that. That's why he wrote that book also. Easy Journey to Other Planet. In 1960s he wrote before they land because it was a very big hype. Every day it was looking like every day they're reaching the moon. So Prabhupada writing that. And then he says that, Krishna is warning us about the uselessness of this. Everywhere there are the pangs of birth, old age, disease and death. Even in Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, one cannot find a happy land for residential purpose due to the matter. The real happiness is in the kingdom of God, where no one is to undergo the pangs of material existence. And nowhere in this planet or other planet one can find true happiness. Indirectly, Shri Sukadeva was affirmed that Madhav Parikshit in the last stage of life should not desire to transfer himself to the so-called heavenly planet, but should prepare himself for going back home, back to Godhead. That is the main thing. That's very highlighted. This purport you'll find that people always focus on that. That the more one is focused in the desire of going back to Godhead, more one can, be fixed up on the path and be detached from the material tabernacle. Okay.
For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in the world of names, he should be intelligent, fixed, and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing.
So, this is the way a devotee or enlightened person should look around in the world. People are working so hard for what? People will say, Prabhupada will say, even if you have so much money, you can't eat more than 4 chapatis. Even you may not get time to eat that also. Most of the time, people who work very hard, they become sick and they get all kinds of diseases, BP, sugar, everything, and they are told to drink some soup. Working hard, they can't use it for their enjoyment. They don't get sleep also. They have to take sleeping pills. So one can see that one become competent to practically perceive that all such endeavors are all merely hard labor for nothing. And this is a conviction which sadhu should have at least. Otherwise, if sadhu thinks that uska life acha, morning from be compulsory, harinam be compulsory, jab aao, jab chao, jab chao, jab aao, jab chao, jab jao. और मंदिर में लाइन है तो गोविंदा में खाओ रेस्ट्रिक्शन भी नहीं है कि ये खा सकते हैं नहीं खा सकते having a good house 3 BHK flat altar है वहाँ पे has to understand that of course I'm not talking devotees but what are the people world is doing sadhu has to have that conviction that is all useless so that he never get slipped in that path sadhu think that also has some value then he will say one leg will be still like they're thinking about that. But you should know it's a world of names only. Doesn't make a difference. People just to change the name from Samsung to iPhone, so much of hard work. From Maruti to Mercedes, so much of hard work. It's a world of names only. Prabhupada wrote a song. He says it's all my wife and children, relatives, just a list of names. Nobody has any. Right in the Vrindavan Bhajan, actually, a beautiful song. Right. So now he says, having criticized severely the path of karmis as being materially, now speak about the necessity of attaining perfection in yoga, which reject the result of karma, and which is common to the devotees as well as the jnanis. The intelligent person does not meditate on material objects of pleasure and does not endeavor for them. Kamasya ne indriya priti lavo jivete yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nato yasya karma. Life desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only healthy life Because a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. This is very important. We are here to make a spiritual advancement. Sometimes we also get caught up into upadhis and other things. But actually, the real goal is to make a spiritual progress. One should accept as many mental objects as one need to support the body, yavadartha, because one is attentive to perfecting one's sadhana. Though one sees many obstacles, one does not deviate from one's practice, vyavasaya buddhi. He concludes, whatever happens simply happens. Whatever I've decided, that is certain. That means how many conversions are happening, how many bomb blasts are happening, how many earthquakes are coming, how many tsunamis are coming, how many train accidents are happening. What all is happening around the world, that's not an important thing. This is my sadhana, and I will do it. And this is the way I will please Krishna and make progress. That's all. He's fixed up in that. He's not getting distracted by all what is happening around, because it will keep on happening. It has been happening. All the time, the news was the same. People are dying in what all different ways. People are dying with what all different diseases. What difference does it make for a person who is dying? For him, is there a big distinction that he's dying out of cancer or heart attack? Or will you ask him, मारने क्या बोलो कौन सा डिजीज चाहिए हार्ट अटैक से मरना है कि कैंसर से मरना है कैंसर बोलो तो कौन से कैंसर से मरना है ब्लड कैंसर के बोन कैंसर के थ्रोट कैंसर all different ways of death. The death which kills. Sometimes death comes as corona, sometimes death comes as accident, sometimes death comes as earthquake, sometimes death comes as bomb blast, and it's death who kills. In the corona time, people were very happy. Road accident rate became less than as much as when the vehicles were not even invented. Nobody was dying out of accident. Now people are happy, but then they died of other reasons. Jatasya hi dhruva mrityur. One who is born is bound to die. So what is the problem if one dies of corona or accident or cancer or whatever? This is foolishness. This is discrimination between wet stool and dry stool. Now we have conquered cancer. Now you can't conquer death. And you cannot conquer that this is the means of not dying. Sometimes हमको cancer हुआ था, हमने go therapy लिया, हमको ठीक हो गया. So everyone will not go there. जिसका death आ गया है, वो जाएगा सब therapy के बाद. जिसका death नहीं आया है, वो पानी पिएगा तो भी ठीक हो जाएगा. Okay, this is death which decides. It's a fact. It's not that the therapies and doctors are the saving people. They are not the people who save. It's the Lord's will. अगर death आ गया है, तो जाएगा कुछ भी करके. किसी भी hospital में हो, कोई भी doctor can. Any doctor claim मेरा patient कभी जाएगा नहीं. बस मेरे पास आने का. No doctor can claim. No therapy can claim. No research center can claim. So that is the way the sadhu should think. Not that he get entangled in the duality of this variety of this. अरे कोरोना से गया कैंसर जाना है ना सबको. कौन कैसे जाएगा? Somebody told Prabhupada now the death rate has decreased to this particular. No, death rate is always 100%. One who has come, he will go. And our calculation of death rate is different. Like how many children used to die in the first 5 years. So definitely in today's world, there may be less children dying out of that. But children are born only less. Earlier, every family has 8, 10 children. Now 2, 3, 1, 2, 0, 1. Like, yeah. My cousin brother was telling he's living in a society with almost 120 flats and there are hardly 10, 12 children in the entire society. And not like an old age home. It's like young people's society because they don't want to have botheration. So, lot of things. But the person has to go to the essence of how this material world functions and the purpose for which it functions. One doesn't have to get trapped into all, because it will keep on happening. Sometimes you wonder, Christians are expanding, Muslims are expanding. Prabhupada went to Christian world and preached. It's actually the Christians and Jews who spread the movement all over the world. And these are not the Hindus. Hindus were always like good in giving advice. They're not good in doing anything else. They give advice. ये हो रहा है, वो हो रहा है. तुम्हारा बेटा कहाँ पढ़ रहा है? अमेरिका में पढ़ रहा है. बेटी कहाँ है? बेटी कनाडा. हिंदुस्तान की चिंता है, लेकिन बच्चे सब बाहर हैं. तो Hindus have that mindset somehow or other. So anyway, I'm not going into that thing. But what I'm saying is these things which disturb us, which agitate us, which take our time, these are all useless things. Jivasya tattva, jigyasa. How to chant better, how to read Bhagavatam, how to do service better, how to engage on. That is the purpose of life. The Bhagavad Dharma or the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam is perfectly distinct from the ways of fruitive activities which are considered by the devotees to be merely a waste of time. The whole universe, for that matter, all matter like this is moving on as Jagat, simply for planning business to make one's position very comfortable or secure. Although everyone sees that this existence is neither comfortable nor secure and can never become comfortable or secure at any stage of development. Neither it has become. जब डेट में सिक्योरिटी नहीं था तब भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर और प्रेसिडेंट को मार देते थे अभी भी मार देखो अमेरिका जैसा देश है और Radhakrishnan was telling that lecture that when that who came the last president of America who came Trump came to India Trump came to India
Who
No.
came last?
no.
Biden, Barack Obama.
No, who came to India अरे president coming to India is not less than a demigod descending in India हो it's such a big news हमारे जनरल नॉलेज में पढ़ते थे अमेरिका का पहला भारत में आने वाला राष्ट्रपति कौन है 4 ऑप्शन होते थे कौन है yeah they used to write that you know who came the last यानी कोई जीके का टेस्ट देना नहीं पर जो भी आया तो बता रहे थे कि एक जगह एक बंदे ने बोला केवल के उसको थोड़ा प्रेसिडेंट को थोड़ा देख लेंगे तो बोला ऐसा करके 1 घंटे में उसके घर में पुलिस आ गया सच है झूठ है जो भी But so much of spying and so much of things were there, and wherever the president has to move, thousands of crores of rupees were wasted in his security. Mortal man. So, although they're trying to secure it, still, now Trump is a president candidate, you know that. Goli Khan ke niche se chali gayi. So, what can be done? It happens to everyone. Rajiv Gandhi was killed by a human bomb. So, nobody is secure. Biggest politician, and that, you know, that army chief. He was the army general. He was like controlling the entire army on his command. And he died in a helicopter accident with his whole family. हेलीकॉप्टर मतलब पर्सनल होता है प्राइवेट होता है सिक्योर होता है उससे ज्यादा क्या होगा प्लेन भी एक अलग चीज होता है हेलीकॉप्टर थोड़ा बट ही डाइड इन ए हेलीकॉप्टर एक्सीडेंट द चीफ मिनिस्टर ऑफ आंध्र तेलंगाना आंध्र 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 ही डाइड इन ए हेलीकॉप्टर एक्सीडेंट पता ही नहीं चला कहाँ मिला क्या उसका बॉडी वगैरह बाद में So, what is the security? और इधर एक लेमैन बोलता है कि मैं सीसीटीवी लगा लूंगा ये इतना बड़ा बड़ा लोग सुरक्षित नहीं है डैमीगढ़ सुरक्षित नहीं है बरीमाला जा जाते तो इंद्रदेव भाग जाते तो कौन सुरक्षित टॉप टू डाउन देन नो सिक्योरिटी नो कंफर्ट बट देन ह्यूमन नेचर इज टू सीक सिक्योरिटी एंड कंफर्ट that is his real position but he's looking for it in the wrong place those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization are certainly madmen. The whole metal creation is jugglery of names only. In fact, it's nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, and fire. Buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection material science, namely atomic energy, electronics, and gadgets. Most times are all simply bewildering names of metal element with their concomitant reaction of the 3 modes. All bewildering names. The devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly. He is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significant than the babbles of sea waves. The great king leaders who just fight with one another in order to perpetuate their name and history, and they are forgotten in due course of time, and they make a place for another era in history. Devotee realizes how much history and historical person are used as product of flickering time. So this is, I mean, Bhumi Geet is there. In 11th canto, 12th canto. And Bhumi Devi is laughing. So many rulers come and they call the Chola kings came, the Mughal king came, and they all become a list of names. Bhumi Devi remains where it is and they just come and go and they claim that they are the rulers. For all of them, it is a waste of time. Since every second of human life is important, enlightened man should be very careful to utilize time very cautiously. 1 second of human life wasted in the vain search of planning for happiness in the material world can never be replaced, even if one spent millions of coins of gold. Human life is never meant for sense gratification, but for self-realization. And the civilization which aims at this utmost perfection never indulges in creating unwanted habits, unwanted things, and such a perfect civilization prepares man only to accept the bare necessities of life or to follow the principle of the best use of the bad bargain. Human life is intended for the realization of this important factor. One should act accordingly, accepting only the bare necessities of life and depending more on God's gift without diversion of human energy for any other purpose. The transcendentalist is specifically warned herewith to be fixed in mind so that even if there is difficulty in plain living and high thinking, he will not budge an inch from his stark determination. Which be difficulty. For a transcendentalist, it is a societal policy to be intimately in touch with the sense gratifiers of the world because such a policy will frustrate the ultimate gain of life. Sukadeva Goswami met Parikshit Maharaj when then later felt a necessity for such a meeting. And the duty of the transcendental is to help persons who desire real salvation and to support the cause of salvation. One might note that Sukadeva Goswami never met Maharaj Parikshit when he was ruling as a great king. For a transcendentalist, the mode of activities is explained in the next verse. That we will discuss next time. Third and fourth. Okay, so today we stop here. 2.2.2. Second canto, second chapter, second verse is over. True. Auspicious halt. Randrashman Bhagavatam ki.